Welcome to episode 9 of the Voice Break podcast. My guest here today owns a factory producing guitarists like crazy. Everyone, welcome Steven. Hi, Steven, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Nice to have you here. So, I saw your profile picture on LinkedIn, and
hmm
actually, that was funny enough. That was the thing that struck me most is
hmm
how colorful that was.
hmm
What's that? What's that a picture of?
I was on tour. I think I think that's back to about 2016 or 2017. So that's a little bit of an old picture. But the girl that took it, we were on tour with Lee Bryce and Justin Moore, and she took some photos for us and gave them to us. So I've had that picture for forever. So I just figured it'd be a decent profile picture.
Awesome.
So.
And you were on tour
mhm.
playing what kind of stuff?
Country mostly.
Country.
I'm born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee, so I'm pretty much I've been around country my whole life. So
Well, it's beautiful. It's beautiful stuff. What sort of preference do you have? Because I know there's a lot
mm,
of people I talk to are always talking about old country's better, new country, or one
mm,
or the other.
uh, kind of a lot of a lot of what I spend my time playing, especially like because I work about 5 nights a week downtown, so I stay pretty close to home.
Mhm.
Every now and then, if I get a decent offer, I'll go out and do a little touring thing. Or I haven't done anything where I've full on committed to an artist in mm, few years now, good few years, because mostly Nashville's a tourist kind of destination, and you can do pretty well. You can do pretty well just staying closer to home. A
Mm.
lot of what I play is more like '90s country. A
Mm.
lot of you'll hear Vince Gill or Clint Black or Clay Walker, guys like that. We'll play a little bit of the modern stuff. There's some call for it. We'll play some of the older stuff. There's a couple of the clubs downtown that are really only geared towards older country. Um, Robert's Western World. I don't know if you know anything about that one. That one's kind of a staple. That one's been a staple for a long time in Nashville. Um, if you go over towards the Opryland area, you get a lot more clubs that are geared towards older country over there. Um, it really depends on where you're playing down there. It really does, because there's in a very in a very very short time span, the whole downtown area of Nashville has absolutely just you know just blown up, to be honest. I mean, it looks like on any given weekend, it looks like what CMA Fest used to look like 15, 20 years ago, like tons and tons and tons of people. We used to have probably about a 3 month dead season, and now there is basically no dead season. So
Wow.
it's a lot, and they are still expanding. I thought the growth would have like stopped by now, but they are starting to kind of continue up Second Avenue, and there's a whole lot more stuff going in. I mean, and it they aren't slowing down, so
Wow.
it's pretty heavy here. So
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm guessing it's for the tourism around that area, but what do you think is bringing so much development?
man, um, the development started at least at least 10 years ago. Um, but it didn't start getting into more of a rapid growth until probably about 4 or 5 years ago. Like you would see a new place open here or there. Great example. When I first started, when I first started, Groon's Guitars was right there on the corner, right there on downtown Broadway, and you could go in there. They had all kinds of vintage guitars and everything, and the clubs and stuff that were there. It was pretty much just between Fourth and Fifth Avenue, and then you had the big arena that was over there at the corner, and then you across from the arena you have the convention center. That was pretty much it. That was the downtown scene. And now it's all the way up from First to Fifth Avenue. Just, I mean, you'll have your random cowboy boot shops and gift shops and stuff like that, but it's clubs pretty much everywhere now. I have no idea, honestly, what made people just start going, oh, we're all going to go to Nashville. You know, maybe LA was too expensive. Maybe they didn't want to go to New York. I will say this. They might have that might have been a big factor because our population size here, especially around like Middle Tennessee area, it has grown substantially. And like I'm not sure how it is where you're at, but like the housing market took a massive boom here. I mean, is over there when my wife and I were looking for a house. Like there was a new development that was close to where we're at now, and I'm not sure what the housing prices look like in that neighborhood right now, but I will say about a year or two from where they started, they have basically doubled. We've had a lot of people come here. I think they saw, oh man, the cost of living's kind of reasonable. And then all of a sudden we just went,
Yeah, I've seen that's a trend kind of in, well,
mm,
around this area as well.
now
One
you're
county in Florida.
Florida, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
one county in Florida has reportedly or allegedly
Mm,
more development than LA right now.
yeah. Yeah. I
It's
can
like
see that.
it's
I can see
insane.
that.
Yeah.
You know, it's we I don't know where we rank in that whole list, but I could definitely say the same thing for here, or at
Yeah.
least that would be my assumption.
That's what it sounds like. So that's, I mean,
Mm,
that's
mhm,
a lot of influx. How
mhm.
does that change what you do?
Has it changed what I do? Well, a lot of that population growth isn't necessarily musicians. It's probably people that have just visited here, like in years past, and they're like, "Oh, Nashville, yeah, Nashville seems like a decent place to live," and they just wind up moving here.
Hmm.
Um, but we do get, I mean, we do get a lot more musicians, moving here. But the thing is, the expansion, as far as like the downtown thing, um, there are more and more places for people to work. I mean, people will say how competitive it is, and there's truth to that. Don't get me wrong, there's truth to that. But when you when somebody first arrives in Nashville, it's not like you have to go out and just and just fight for your gigs and everything like that. It's just you know you go out, you meet some people, you figure out, okay, where do I fit into this whole thing? What, and really and truly, you kind of have to ask yourself the question, what do I need to learn so that I can make sure that I'm good and plugged in. And if you can do that before you get here, um, you're in great shape. We have a lot of Canadian musicians that move here. I will
Hmm.
say that. I mean, you'll get some from other states, but for whatever reason, downtown you will find a lot of Canadian musicians,
Interesting.
and they're all really good. They're all really good.
Wow.
hmm
That's not something you would expect.
hmm
I think like Canadians, like snowbirds, kind of coming
Oh yeah, oh
south
yeah,
more,
for
kind
sure,
of like
for sure.
yeah, interesting.
Mm,
So you've spent a lot of your life essentially making your living as a touring musician.
yeah, for about the past 10 or 11 years now, for sure. I started when I was in college and just van and trailer stuff, and that was it. That was kind of how I cut my teeth. I
Mhm.
slept in some 15 passenger vans on on a bench, and there's one time I was coming back from Michigan. I was still dressed in the clothes that I had played the gig in, had my boots on and everything, and I went
Yeah.
downtown and played a 10 a.m. shift as soon as I got out of the van. I was in my early 20s.
Oh wow,
So, hmm
the bachelor life, huh?
yeah, back then. Yeah, I can't do
Yeah.
that now.
No, no.
Wife and a little boy. So,
Yeah, but it's all different now. It's all different.
hmm
It's good. I mean, being more settled is a lot more cozy. And
hmm
I remember you saying you're a bit of a homebody. Is that right?
yes. Yeah, for the most part. If the travel, I like to travel some, but I've done my fair share of it.
Hmm.
Let's put it that way. I've definitely done my fair share of. I don't think I haven't been in all 50 states, but I've been in the majority of them. And then I've been to Norway and I've been up to Canada. I think. I think that's about it. Most of the time, I spend most of it in the states, but I've done a little bit of international stuff, just to
Hmm.
kind of enough to kind of to kind of see a little bit of things.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Of all those places, what's the craziest place you've toured in?
Craziest place I've toured in. Actually, I will tell you, Norway was pretty cool. Did did it once. Did it once. May never go back, but it was really cool. That is a long, long flight,
Yeah.
and when I was going over there, there was a mix up with my flight ticket. It was like a misspelling of my name or something, and they could not change the ticket. I mean, it's just like a small technicality, and I wound up flying to Norway by myself, layovers and all that stuff there and back. The girl I was playing with over there, we were doing it's like this little country festival at a club for a guy that visits Nashville. Like we'll get international people and sometimes they'll see you playing somewhere and they're like, oh, would we be able to book you? Is that possible? And and the money was right, so you know they wind up booking us. But flying internationally by yourself, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, wish I had a buddy here.
Yeah, that's a
But
lot.
that was kind of one of the craziest things. But being there, uh, he took us on a drive. I don't think it was an off day. I think we played that night. But he took us on a drive, probably around in the morning or close to noon. Most beautiful place I've ever seen. Most beautiful place. I mean, I've still got some of the videos on my phone of that drive, like just the countryside and everything. I mean, it is gorgeous, man. Absolutely gorgeous. So
Wow.
that was a really cool experience. I will say, if you ever get a chance to kind of go over towards that way, you know, do it once. At least do it once. So,
Yeah,
mm,
that sounds reasonable. I'm
mm,
not much of a travel guy myself. In fact, I
yeah,
would say I'm very much a homebody as well.
yes,
But one time is good.
yes,
One
yeah.
time is
It for me, I don't really like flying anymore. I will say I'm not a big fan of flying. Like on a bus, if you're, you know, as long as it's not super super. I mean, every now and then you get a crowded bus, but 6 7 guys. I mean, you're generally okay. You
good.
know, but yeah, on a bus, I would prefer to drive as opposed to fly because airports. Um, at least for me, and I haven't had just awful experiences or anything like that, but just it gets way too crowded, way too hectic, you know, too stressful. Um, and if you're, I've I've had a situation or two, I think, where we're rushing to kind of meet our flight,
Mhm.
and that is not fun. Having to get through security, and and then all of a sudden, if something happens, and then you really just don't want to miss your flight and get stranded. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
that
I'm just kind of had a lot of experiences over the years that make me go, I like sleeping in my own bed, being around my wife and my son, and that's about it.
yeah, yeah, no doubt.
Mm.
Plus having any kind of gear with you, and
Yes,
like
yes,
that's like
so
having
much
kids
so.
on its own.
Yes, so much so.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Yeah, I can imagine. Just
Hmm.
hearing about tours and
Yeah,
the
trying to
kind of
trying to
horror
check
stories.
your guitars or your pedal board and stuff, and then all of a sudden you find out they've gone through your pedal board. I've seen guys that have posted pictures where people have like disconnected their pedal boards and everything like that, and it's like, oh my
Ah,
gosh, you have to, and some of them are like kind of elaborate pedal boards that like another company like hooked up for them and stuff.
yeah.
I've tried to work on mine before and had a problem kind of getting it put back together. So I cannot imagine having to deal with all that.
Yeah, that's insane.
Hmm.
I I only know well actually there was something I was seeing from Adam Neely. Do you know?
I know that name. I know that name.
He's like the biggest music theory nerd
Gotcha.
on
Gotcha.
the internet. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and he has a band called Sungazer, really cool stuff. Like
Okay.
they play some like neo jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
But they went on their first Europe tour and they found that Europe doesn't have the same plugs, like
Gotcha.
wall sockets
Oh yeah.
that we and so they had
Mm-hmm.
to get like all different gear or like adapters or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to make their own rack and do all this kind of stuff.
Oh, they had to rebuild their whole touring rig. Mm,
Yeah.
that's brutal. That's brutal.
It looked like a nightmare, but it definitely
Mhm.
was a good experience for them.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, that's a rabbit hole. It's like
Yes.
pedals is a rabbit hole,
Hmm.
touring gear is a rabbit hole.
Hmm.
Can't imagine.
Hmm.
But you play a lot of 90s stuff.
Hmm.
One thing I haven't really talked about so far on this podcast is kind of
Hmm.
like musically
Hmm.
as a player, as a guitarist.
Hmm.
What do you find is really the difference?
Well, what do you mean? Define the question a little more.
Yeah, like in terms of theory or whatever exactly you're playing in terms of guitar. What's the
Yes.
difference
Okay.
between 90s
I
and
know. I
2000s?
know. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, Me personally, um, I feel like theory's great. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot to be said about theory,
Hmm.
and like some like the writing and stuff that I've done, like that I've posted. One thing you'll hear me say is sometimes the terminology that's attached to it is more complicated than the actual concept itself. That is truly my experience, because when you get into it and you are in the middle of a song, and let's say you're in a verse, or you're in a solo or something like that, and it's a completely off the cuff thing. You're not sitting there, you're not you're not making a diagnosis. You're not analyzing, you're not making some kind of big diagnosis of what I'm about to play. You are reactively listening to everything that's going on in the band around you. Like my drummer, for instance, a drummer. I'm trying to remember the guy that. Um, it was a great quote. He talked about the drummer being the quarterback, and like he calls the plays and stuff like that. And that drummer is the rhythmic basis, that everybody's kind of relying on. You want to make sure that that guy's got great time, great feel, great groove. But if you're a guitar player or a bass player, like a bass player, for instance, he's going to be his notes, his rhythm is going to be derived from the kick drum. Those guys are going to be like that. If you're thinking guitar or you're playing, fiddle or even steel or something like that, you're you're listening for all the in between beats and things. There's an old baseball movie where the pitcher, um, he has this scene where he's about to deliver the pitch, and all of a sudden you just hear this, and it's like he's in his own head, tunes out the entire crowd, and it's just him and the catcher. He's got a batter right there in the batter's box. He goes to deliver the pitch. Nothing else around him is clouding his judgment. He's got like the psychological ability, I guess, to tune out all the other distractions. And you're sitting there hearing, it's like almost things slow down, and you go, okay, I'm going to kind of place this here. I'm going to place this little phrase, or I like to call them musical sentences. I'm going to place this little section right here, you know. And the thing is, because we started kind of talking about theory, I'm not sitting there thinking about, well, okay, I'm going to do the Ionian mode or the Phrygian Mixolydian mode over this. If the song's in the key of G, I'm playing the key of G. That's it. And then my ear hears when we're going to the 5 chord, or when we're going to the 4, or if we're going to a 2 minor, you know. And then all of a sudden, those scales and things, um, all those aren't meant to be like crutches. Those are little scales. Those are little frameworks or skeletons to build something off of. And you can't just sit there and use them, in just consecutive note after note fashion. You don't just play the scale. Scale isn't music itself. If you don't have any of the rhythm, you know, there ain't any music. So I say all that to say this: you get a lot of stuff on the internet as well, where somebody's talking about, and and this will lead us into some of our business discussion too. But you get all this, marketing and advertising put towards people that, like, you know, that say, hey, you want to play fast? Do you want to shred on the guitar and stuff? And yeah, I'm here to tell you, if you, as a professional musician, your goal is not to shred on the guitar. Your goal is to play the song that the person just tipped you for.
Yep.
Or if it's an artist, your job is to learn the record, learn the tones, and be able to go out and recreate that. You're an actor that's memorizing lines.
Hmm.
That's it. If you're a session guy, I mean, you're just coming up with parts, and the parts a lot of times aren't that complicated. You can take 2 notes, set delay and reverb, and all of a sudden that's the intro to the song. Who in the world is shredding on commercial music? You know what I mean? I mean, the whole goal the whole goal is for you to be able to play and play well, and to enjoy, playing music with other people, even sitting in kind of my home studio area, sitting and enjoying just playing, coming up with stuff, creating something. Um, I find that a lot of people, instead of just selling good education, they're selling a dream to somebody. And I've bought courses like that. I have done
Mhm.
that when I kind of started diving into this whole online world too. You know, you know, yeah, they got me with the marketing thing too, and I
Yeah.
kind of just decided, I'm not a huge theory guy. You'll hear a lot of big name players say that a lot of times theory can kind of just cloud stuff. It's an attempt. It's an attempt to explain. It's an attempt to explain concepts, and it's great. But if you've got the head knowledge and you still can't do this with the guitar, you still can't actually make music out of it, it didn't do you any good. The whole
Mhm.
goal is to actually teach you how to play, you know, which, I'm sure you've probably seen some of the same stuff, with singing as well.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like, as far as the education side of it, I feel like we can definitely simplify what we're doing, but as far as course products, or as far as writing and explaining things, you know I think the quality really has to be there. you know um I really hope I'm answering your question. um but I feel like from all my years of experience of doing what I do, I don't think all of the overly complicated stuff that you see out there, I you know some of it's not completely necessary, or at least if I'm doing what they're talking about, I have a much more layman's terms approach to doing it, just because I spent so much time in bands and and really just in bars and clubs playing with bands in general. Um, it's I feel like there's a simpler way to teach people music. You know what I mean? That type
Yeah,
thing.
there
Um,
definitely is.
and at the same time, I'm like, I know a bunch of people that like have student loan debts from some of the big music schools and things like that. And they come here and they play the same exact 3 and 4 chord songs that I do. I started when I was 19 and walked into a club. So, and I got my education that way.
Yeah,
So,
that's the big irony.
a mentor of mine said this. He said this recently, and I think he's absolutely right. Um, he said you can either play a million chords for 3 people, or you can play 3 chords for a million people. You take your pick. What's going to pay you bills? You know, G G C and D, or E A and B. Or do you want to go into C sharp minor 7 flat 5 to an A dominant 7, and like, no, E A and B.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
No
They
worries.
it started the recording again.
Okay.
You good on
Yes.
your end? Okay.
Yeah. It's still good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us go through the bell curve
Mm-hmm.
of any skill, and really what that bell curve
Yes.
is ego getting
Yeah.
in the way.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
And it's a huge pain.
Yeah.
because you think you want this complexity. You get the shred. Like that's what that marketing plays on. It's like
Mhm.
ego wants to feel big and popular and all this stuff.
Yeah,
And you get to shredding, you're like, this isn't actually why I wanted to do it, actually.
right.
Like,
Yes.
why I play guitar or why I sing,
Hmm.
it's not to be impressive. It's
That's
to
right.
play.
That's right. That's it in a nutshell. Let's also put it this way. When when I started playing guitar, I I started taking it seriously when I was about 14 years old. I was sitting out on my back deck with just a little music book and a CD that had the little exercises or whatever in it. They mentioned nothing about modes. They mentioned nothing about music theory or shredding or anything like that. The first few pages said, "Here's an E chord." So if you can take somebody that wants to learn, um, well, I'll say this as well. I saw an ad. I saw an ad for a product, and the guy in the ad was saying, "I've been wanting to learn music." He said, but he said, "I thought it would take way too long. I thought it, you know." And to me, it's kind of like, okay, well, if you can really just, you know, put somebody in that playing out on your back deck, mentality and headspace, and kind of help walk them through it, they're going to have a much better time. And that's literally why I tell people, okay, with everything that you learn, let's say you learn E, A, and B this week. If you learn E, A, and B, then you've got some tools to work with. But don't just learn E, A, and B. Create something with E, A, and B. Sit there and spend 20 or 30 minutes, figure out how to kind of, pick all the individual notes, do different combinations of things. Sit there and enjoy playing the instrument. You know, if, you know, when it comes to singing, you know, if you want to learn a song, you don't necessarily have to learn the entire thing. If you want to work on like your range or something, learn the first verse. You know, just memorize the words to the first verse, which is maybe what 4 or 5 lines long. You know, and nail that part. Get good at it. You know, you at that point you've actually accomplished something. You actually have real tangible results and momentum that lead to the next thing. It's not just, oh, I bought this online course and I got to make it through all the videos. Because if you make it through all the videos and you still can't do the thing that you bought the course to learn how to do to begin with, you know
Mhm.
then you wasted your money.
Yeah,
So
that's sadly true.
hmm yeah, I think there's quite a bit of that out there.
There is,
You know
there really is. It's a problem that I've seen with a wide amount of the education that's out there.
hmm
It's very theoretical. The
Yep.
knowledge is true.
Yes.
This information is right. Like, if you do this, this will happen. But that's not how we learn.
hmm That's right.
So, education that doesn't adhere to how we learn,
hmm
it's not very good education. It's good information.
That's right.
It's not practical.
If that's the thing, like you go to college and you get all those quote unquote student loans and things like that, but all the labs you take or all the time of you go to you go to class Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you're sitting there for 2 and 3 hours at a time in the class while the teacher is sitting up there showing you the concept, going through slide by slide by slide, and you're sitting there with a pen and a pad of paper taking notes. And at the end of the semester, you take the final, and Lord willing, you're trying to get a good grade. It's like, Lord, I want an A. I want an A. I want my time to pay off here. If you want to disrupt the whole education system, which the online education, it's not a bad thing, you know, but you have to have good quality instruction. You can't just say, oh, I'm an instructor now, and I'm, hey, listen to me. And it's like, you know, yes, you can, nothing wrong with somebody trying to build something, build a business, and that's a good thing. But if you're going to teach somebody how to do something, design it in such a way that they really are going to get the result. Whenever you hear it, one thing that does, and I'm sure you've seen tons of this, but when somebody, because like Facebook's ad policies and stuff, and they talk about like, if you're making income claims and things like that, and you're talking about, you see somebody go, you know, do you want to be like the other people that are making, $100,000 a year? And it's like, and if you're one of the people, it's like, man, I only made 30 grand this year. I only made 40 grand. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, you're kind of preying on somebody's emotions. I
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a problem with that because
Hmm.
I've bought courses wanting to learn a skill, but in some of the marketing they talk about, how you can make all this money, and that's part of the ad and stuff. But and then you get in there, and like you said, there's not, you get principles and stuff that are true, but it's like it's like there's always this little piece of the puzzle that's missing. It's like there's this little nuanced piece of the puzzle that's missing.
Hmm.
And or you find something, and it's like you learn this one skill, and it's just a topical thing, but you didn't quite realize that there was this prerequisite skill that you had to learn. So now you got to go buy the course for that one. And it's like, oh, I didn't realize there were all these prereqs and stuff,
Hmm.
and I don't know. I kind of digress. I've seen a lot of that. So,
Yeah, there is a lot of that. And I think that's a very important point to talk about, being that we're both educators in this space, especially in the music field.
mhm.
It's crucial for people to actually perform something, to
Yes,
get the experience, to get what then becomes knowledge.
yes,
Because if we just throw it like on paper, all
right.
this stuff can be true and be like, wow,
Yes,
how do we bridge the gap? The
yes.
product is supposed to bridge the gap for them. I
Hmm.
don't see the point in personally selling something
Hmm.
that doesn't bridge that gap.
Right.
That to me is like I'm failing my audience.
Yes. My thing that I've been trying to do, I want to build out like my whole course product thing or whatever. It's 3 full courses that go beginner, intermediate, and advanced. I want it to be a complete picture of learning guitar. It for me as a business owner, it is something that I am continually building upon. Like I'm adding to it because I'm still learning. But
Hmm.
I will say this: anybody that sees that is watching this podcast right now, if you have any kind of aspirations about building a business or doing anything like that, do this. For I had been doing it for about a year and a half, and I did it while I was on gigs because I would sit there and have my phone set up, and I had to have my notes app open.
Mm.
But write. Learn to write. Like, and the only reason I say that is because if you have experience doing something and you want to teach others how to do it, get everything that's up here out onto paper. Distill your experience and your conceptual knowledge and all the applicable knowledge, the how to do this, the what is this, what is that, all that stuff. Get every bit of it out on paper. It's a long process. I've been doing it for about a year and a half. I still kind of do it now, but at that point, organize all of it. If you do it that way, you will have a better product than your competitors. You may, and you might be like me. You're not the most, charismatic and, and obnoxious, like, look at me person, because I don't care about any of that.
Mhm.
But I do care about quality. I do care about the guy that's like, that's about to spend money on whatever it is I'm selling, Um, and if that person's going to entrust me with income, you know, for my family, I want to give him something that's, I want to give him the complete picture. And when I sell that to that person, I'm not going to sit there and look at you and go, oh, this is going to make you a professional musician.
Mhm.
No, you're going to get 20 years worth of, experience playing guitar distilled in the best possible way that I can do it. I'm going to simplify every possible thing that I can. Because, I mean, I've done all my YouTube rabbit holes too. I've read the books. I've listened to tons of music. I've sat there in 15 passenger vans with my headphones on, charting out songs, figuring out how to play stuff, figuring out how to troubleshoot some gear problems, or, I've bought tons of gear, things like that, learned how to use stuff. I've got that experience, made tons of mistakes. The whole goal of me distilling that experience is for me to try to help you avoid the mistakes. And for you, I mean, that should be any educator's goal, is to make sure that they set their student up, at least for success. But you don't want to sit there and get somebody's hopes and dreams up. If you want to pursue it professionally, I make it a point. I make it a point, underneath where my product is. Like, I make it a point to explain to people, like, I'm not making any promises about anything, because whenever you see that, like, knowing nothing to being a pro or whatever, no, it took me 3 years to get plugged in, and I was born and raised in Nashville. I didn't have to move here. I was, oh man,
Oh,
just had a little bit of a power outage type thing. I don't know. Like I said, it's a little stormy here,
yeah.
but but it took me 3 years to get plugged in, to actually make my living. Darn. If I have to move, I'm sorry, buddy. Um,
Hey, no worries.
but but I mean, if if it took me that long, do you truly think that I can make you a professional musician in 30 days? Do you really think that that's possible? The best session musicians, the heroes that you look up to, you know, it took them years of working, learning to play, you know, getting your butt handed to you. I mean,
Mhm.
just flat out. I know I've had that experience. You know, there is no way in the world I would ever tell somebody, hey, if you just listen to me, I can take you from knowing nothing to the pro level skills. And because if you have pro level skills, you should be making your living and paying your bills doing this.
Mhm.
Why would I ever tell somebody that? That's it. Just some of that. I don't know about you, but some of that stuff bugs me. I don't. I don't ever want to mislead somebody or deceive somebody. I know how hard it was getting to where I've gotten to, and I'm not gonna ever mislead somebody like that for income sake. I work 5 nights a week downtown. I've got income. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'd rather build something that's long term. I would rather have a trustworthy brand. I would rather actually build something that long term people are going to go, oh yeah, that's probably the one I ought to stick with. It's reasonably priced, and it's going to show me everything I need to know. So build
Mhm.
slow, build slow. Don't build quick. You,
Yeah.
you'll have a you'll have a better you'll have a better business in the end. I feel like I've kind of learned that early. So
I agree 100%. I'm glad you did.
mm,
Because a lot of people say, and even beyond just the musical space, in the business space,
sure, sure, sure.
people talk about
Mm,
the time frame, and a lot of people promise
hmm
these really short time frames
hmm
when everyone starts from a different place.
Yes.
And if you did truly start from their actual ground zero,
Yeah.
what they define as their ground zero,
Yes.
then maybe it could be possible. But the thing is,
Mm,
you're not going to start there, more
right.
than likely.
Right.
And oftentimes the same is true in music courses.
Yes.
What is shown as ground zero, like the entry level,
Right.
is still leagues away from where you are.
Yes.
So that's a huge problem.
Mm,
And that's why I can see why you're saying like
hmm
this this promise is guarantee that a lot of
hmm
people do.
Yeah.
It really it really better be based on past results, like a
hmm
really large amount of like
hmm
this person or this group of people
hmm
got the same results from all different backgrounds
hmm
because the product or the course was designed in such a way that it
hmm
addresses you where you are,
Yeah.
wherever you are.
Yes.
That's
hmm
the only time when I would say, yeah, I mean,
hmm
the guarantee is based off of measured results.
Yes. Well, that's like your thing with like the 80 days.
Hmm.
That's a measurable time frame, and 80 days, that is something where you know you can get results in that time frame. You're not telling them, hey, I'm going to make you a better singer by next week. you know no, 80 days is enough time for them to build a habit. It is enough time for you to show them, okay, this is what you do. This is step one. This is step two. And this is step three. So, hey, over this 80-day time period, you do this, and you do this. Do it daily. You know, grab a pen and a piece of paper, sit there and track your results. 80 days is enough time for somebody to go, oh man, I started here and now I'm here. You know, okay, now what can I do with 80 more days? You know, my whole deal, like with my online course stuff, like I see a lot of people that do all the subscription stuff, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against subscriptions or anything like that. My deal is this. My deal is I want to treat customers well and I want to serve customers well. You know, that's how you do well in business. But I don't want somebody to go. I don't want the idea to be there. It's like, oh man, you know, how much am I going to have to spend? And it, there's a reason people don't want to go spend $50,000 on a music degree. So
Yep.
why am I going to lock them into, you know, something that's just going to keep racking up? I'd rather make it like a lifetime access deal. And with the online education deal, we have a whole global business. You have a global market that you can sell to. Don't get greedy. Don't get greedy. You know, it's with, I want people to have the complete picture. Like, I don't want them to just go, to just give up after a week. Like, if you're playing music, you're in it for the long term anyway. Like, it's, you don't, oh, how do I put this? Actually, yeah, I wrote about this. You, it's not that you quit learning guitar, but at some point, at some point, you've learned the head knowledge and stuff that you need to learn. You don't stop trying to create with the stuff that you know. You don't stop trying to build right hand technique. You don't stop trying to build fretting hand technique. You know, you think that stuff through. There's no amount of theory that explains right hand technique and left hand technique. Yeah, I can talk to you about scales. I can talk to you about, building chords and all of that. But if you can't rhythmically subdivide the beat, with your right hand, if you can't, you know, if you can't figure out the little intricate movements to kind of, mitigate a few like overtones that come out, when you're playing,
Mm.
you know, I, I can't, there's no terms for that. That's you just sitting there playing guitar and trying to smooth your sound out, you know, in I can, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to singing, you know, you sit there, if you're in your car on your drive to work, and you sit there and you're singing that same tune that you've been trying to learn all week, you know, I mean, there's no better way to do it than just kind of just doing it, and just, when you get to that, one note at the end of the course, the high part or whatever, you know, you have to kind of refine that. You have to listen over and over again. And it's not so much just repetition and things like that. You know,
Mhm.
you see a lot of people that talk about, well, it's just repetition, repetition, repetition.
Yeah.
Reps are one thing. Quality reps are a whole different thing, you know, because you have to be able to sit there and go and take an honest look at your playing or your singing or whatever. And you have to go, you know, okay, that was all right. I think I've got a better take in me. Kind of like playing a session. Like, oh, I messed up on bar four right there of the second chorus. Hey, bud, can you punch me in over there? I think I got a better one in me. Same thing. You're just refining. You're going through a process of trial, of refinement, but having a critical ear, I mean, that's you growing. I did not start like with me. Gosh, man, if you would have seen me when I was 19, I did not start out playing like I did now. I got my butt handed to me. That you have all these people that move here, that like they were the big fish in a small pond, and me and my guitar teacher were talking about this. Like, I started in the big pond. Like, I was the small fish in the big pond, and I'm still I'm still just in the big pond. I never was the I never was the big guitar player in my hometown. It was like I went downtown to Nashville, Tennessee, and went, "Oh my gosh, how am I ever going to be able to do that?" Like, that is so cool. And then I went home to my room and I sat there with records and just started playing. That was it. It wasn't, it was the process, the learning process itself. It's messy, plain and simple. Yes, you can lay out a step-by-step plan. You can, you can try to give that to a student, but make no mistake, if you're the student, you know, your learning process is going to be messy. You may have questions, and um, that's kind of one of my things too. Like I'm trying to be as accessible as I can be to people. Being a one-man operation, I'm trying to figure out how to do that without getting in over my head. Because like, yeah, time management, it's a thing. So,
Yeah.
but if at some point, you have to kind of, you have to just understand it takes work and it takes effort. There's no instructor out there on the internet that can give you some magic secret pill, or one magic shape, or one magic formula to be able to rule the fretboard. Nobody can just hand you all of that hard work and all of that experience. Yes, we can impart knowledge, but you still have to go through the process of doing the hard work and growing your own skills and your own abilities. And your own skills and your own abilities probably won't look like the instructors. They might be better, they might not be, they might just go in a completely different direction. I'm not sure what style of music, like, do you do mostly like rock stuff, that type thing, or are you in like pop? And I know you mentioned like jazz, like fusion and stuff like that, I think a second
Oh
ago.
yeah. So
Mm,
one thing I personally have done for a long time is I like to
mm-hmm.
take my crack at everything that I can,
Yes.
so that if a student asks,
Right.
then I have at least some kind of answer. I'm like,
You have a back. You have a little bit of a
I
back.
don't altogether know, but
Yeah.
this and that. So
Yeah.
one thing I've taken a special interest in is metal, like
Metal. Yeah.
like really heavy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my formal training is in opera, so
Mm,
kind of bridging the gap there.
that's awesome.
Just doing everything I can in between. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And that's, you know, man, taking somebody from singing opera to singing metal,
that
that's
was quite
impressive.
a twist. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But, you know,
I don't know if you play games at all.
oh, yeah.
Are
Oh,
you familiar with Doom Eternal?
I haven't played that. I remember all the old Doom games. I remember all the
I,
old ones.
yeah,
I
my dad grew up on that stuff.
really,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. How far back do you start? Are you like Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo era?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Genesis was
Yeah,
like one of my
me
first.
too.
Yeah. That's
I,
awesome.
I do a lot of like I'll play a lot of like old school RPGs. I've got a bunch of those on my phone, like all the old Final Fantasies and stuff. That's how much of a nerd I
That's amazing.
am. So,
Yeah.
mm,
The so the old Doom and the music is just awesome.
mm,
The new Doom, they got Mick Gordon, and Mick Gordon just like tore it up. So
mm,
2019, I believe it was.
mm,
They were it might have been 2020. It might have been 2019.
mm.
But they had a cast for Scream like metal choir.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 3 months. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, we're gonna try this. I'm gonna figure it out because I want to be
Mm-hmm.
on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up they had so much influx that they shortened the audition time to just like 3 weeks.
Right.
I didn't have time. I had like a croak and I recorded it. I was like, this isn't it.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get to go, but that's what started my journey on that.
Mm-hmm. Man, I mean, but the thing is, like, as instructors, like, you know, anybody watching this whole deal right now should take a serious note. of what Tristan just said. He tried something, didn't necessarily get it, but now he knows what's up. Now he's got his experience. I did the same thing with a friend of mine that's pretty big into music licensing.
Hmm.
I made some stuff on my home studio. I
Mhm.
submitted it to a music library. Um, I did not get accepted at all, but I still submitted it. It was messy. Golly,
Goodness.
I think I'm about to be in the dark here in a minute.
You're not. Hopefully
But
not. Well,
um, at some point, all the stuff you've been working towards, you just have to throw it out there. You have to publish it. Like I did that. I've done that with my online course. I've got the basic course out there. And to me, you know, it's actually the second iteration of it, but that's actually published version 1.0. And I'm still going to try to improve it. I, with having done all that, that's how I'm going to approach building out the intermediate and the advanced stuff. And then I'm going to continue and continue and continue to iterate. I'm not going to expect perfection first, right out the chute. I'm not going to expect perfection that way. I'm going to expect to, just like learning guitar, just like the thing that I'm teaching people to do, as far as being a business owner, you know, I'm going to expect that I'm going to have to iterate as well. You go, you go after an opportunity. If you fail first, that's not you completely failing. I sat in, like when I first started playing downtown, I sat in with guys that I was not even in the same ballpark as them. I was I talk about, you know, we define what a beginner is in my course, but man, I would almost venture to say I was below beginner status. It was that bad.
oh my
And
goodness.
but there were nights it was so bad I went home in tears. I'm not kidding. I'm in my car like scared to death. How am I going to pay bills? How am I going to make my living? Like that should underscore the reality of things to students that are watching this.
Mhm.
Um, but you don't quit after your first attempt. That's nuts. Literally, that's nuts. You don't just go, oh, now I'm not going to lie myself. Like I get nervous. I get gun shy. like I don't want to make a bad first impression on people. Like so, I'm a little bit like hesitant before I put that first thing out there because I want to succeed and I want to do well. I think that's a common feeling that everybody experiences. But how do you temper that? How do you just say, all right, I know it's not perfect, but and who really cares if you have any criticism? It's the internet. It's the internet. Come on. We know the game by now. We're all old enough. We know the game. You're gonna have some Facebook troll that's gonna that didn't get past high school that's gonna that still has his bullying ways. You know, who cares? You know, but try, and iterate. That's it. You don't sit there and quit and give up. Like um a great thing for us to discuss about the whole business deal. Because Tristan, I would love to hear your take on this. Um you have, when you're building a business, you see a lot of things people talk about their tech stack. And it's all these
Mm-hmm.
different softwares, all these different subscriptions and things like that. And some of them are great, some of them are useful. There's tons and tons and tons and tons of them out there. You cannot, yeah, you use some of them as tools for a time, but like you can't just you can't just break the bank to do all this. I mean, you can easily start spending thousands of dollars trying to build your business, and like my downtown income, that's what leverages, me being able to, pay for like the, for instance, the scheduling app, the auto posting thing that I've got.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of them. I've got Hype Fury. Yeah, I've got Taplio, which is for LinkedIn. But the thing is, you come to find out, oh, and I've got TypeShare, which I started kind of just writing stuff really from my own head, but like with the TypeShare stuff, you got these different, like, it's basically like writing templates, and it helps kind of it does help organize your thoughts, but like, um, you know, I mean, they're quite a few $100. I mean, like they're annual subscriptions and things like that, but you come to find that, like, okay, Taplio only does LinkedIn, but Hype Fury will do, they'll do Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And then TypeShare will basically do almost all of them. But TypeShare doesn't schedule and stuff like one or the other does.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to look at it and go, okay, this one has some really cool features. It's great and all, but maybe I can save myself some headache and some money, and just use this one thing. It may not have all the other little shiny bells and whistles that this does, but this is going to give me everything that I need, and I can flat out, build a business on this. Like, basically, it's a lot like you were saying earlier, like people saying do this, do this, do this, and your experience has been, no, not necessarily. Not necessarily. You know.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I'd love to hear your take on that. I'd love to hear what you've seen.
Yes, so I use a number of things for like
Mm-hmm.
multi-posting across socials because it gets to be like time consuming,
Yes.
and if you can same time, it's always a good thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I stumbled across this thing called Zoho Social, which
Mm-hmm.
lets you post Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I don't
Mm-hmm.
use Mastodon, but that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. Oh, and the LinkedIn business page itself as well.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok is an option, YouTube is an option, but
Mm-hmm.
my integrations haven't worked. So I do
Mm-hmm.
like 5 different things in one.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes I use that. Now, I'll be honest, I've been on the free trial, but
Sure, sure,
it's
sure.
been pretty good for me.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, what I find, and to your point, just like how people are saying all the things not to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
If all you listen to is what not to do, you're
Yes.
never going to do anything.
Yes.
There's something that I've also noticed in lessons as well,
Mm-hmm.
is that there's an intuition that you have. Like
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, you decide, just like you were saying, this stuff is pretty good, but this actually is better for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're the one who decides that. And if you don't listen to that intuition, there's far less likelihood you're going to be successful
Mm-hmm.
in singing, guitar, music,
Yes.
and business.
Yes.
Because you're the only one who can truly address where you are.
Yes.
and what you can see,
Mm-hmm.
there's an obvious answer
Mm-hmm.
that other people from outside your point of view
Yes.
aren't going to see. They're going to be like, no, don't do this and this. But you're like, well, there's this thing right here. We haven't tried it.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's going to work.
Yes.
But if you listen to the other advice, it's like, don't do X and X, do this.
Mm-hmm.
But this is easier,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
It's it's a really great, if you think about the stuff that you and I teach, and you think about, it's like creativity and business. It like it's the in a lot of ways it's the exact same thing. Um, but like if you cannot take somebody's business model, copy and paste their business model, which you see a lot of out there. You cannot copy and paste someone else's business model and expect to see their same results. You cannot look at it and go, oh, that guy's doing it, so if I do it, you know, maybe it's going to get me, out of this mess that I'm in. Which, I mean, there's reasons why somebody's going to start that business. You know,
mhm.
you can't just look at it that way. You have to take, you have to take the, you take good business concepts and apply them. But the concepts are just the concepts. It's exactly like playing guitar. It's exactly like music. You can show somebody the scales, you can show somebody the chords and things like that. But their creativity is not going to be the same as the instructor's creativity. If you put the student and the instructor in a session together and you say, okay, we're going to create a part for this song, they're going to come up with two very different parts. we my my wife and I we have some friends over for like game night once a month,
Mhm.
and like we were all playing. It was a game called Blank Slate, and you get this little cue card that has like a word and then a blank, or and then you get 3 points for matching with one other person, but you get 1 point if you match with other people. It's
Mhm.
basically like trying to think differently. And there were several instances where we all saw the exact same word, all very different answers. We got one concept, we got one word, and we all filled in the blank very, very differently. Business, creativity, the exact same thing. So let's say, Tristan, let's you and I try to give them some examples as best we can. So let's say you're building your business. And actually, to tell you the truth, I've thought a lot about this because this is something I don't necessarily want to do. You know, how to make 7 figures a year or how to make this much money, but I want to show somebody. Okay, I grew a business. This was how I did it. This was what I used. This is how you use those programs. You're in for a 2 year long business experience if you purchase my course. Yeah, this ain't 30 days to your business. This is 2 years, and maybe you have a
Mhm.
decent business later. But like you get a program like Kajabi, or you get Teachable or something like that. Okay, so now you have a course, hosting platform. All that is a tool. That's it. When it comes to you building the curriculum, that one of like, and that's one of the things that kept me for a long time from even thinking about building a business was, you know, I did not. I looked at it as, okay, if I, what can I make that somebody hasn't already made? How do you have an original, you know, how do you have originality, in in the world that we're in today, where like almost everything is available at the click of a button, you know, and then you come to the realization, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm serving customers. It's not the product development itself. I can absolutely create something that has already been created before. But how do I take all the experience that I've got and I make that into something that's usable? Like, I'm in my 30s, and I'm thinking about, the 20-year-old kid that's, sitting in his bedroom somewhere, wants to learn how to play guitar, you know, and he doesn't have just tons of money to spend on private lessons, and it's like, how do I help that kid? Because I was that kid a while back. It's, I mean, that's product development. That's that's market research. That's what it takes to build a business. You're not
Yeah.
trying to be you're not trying to be Apple, you're not trying to be Tesla, you're not trying to do any of that. You know, when you're making money, when you're charging somebody for something, you're charging them for quality, for something that's of great, of you want value, and golly, value, that is a word that's thrown around in our industry like you would not believe. Everybody talks about value, but that's the elusive thing. you know
Yeah.
it's not about your value. It's about you serving people. It's about honesty. It's about integrity. It's about you taking that year or that year and a half and all that experience that you got, distilling that, and trying to help somebody avoid the potholes and mistakes. If you're wanting to build a business, whoever's watching this, that's how you do it. You serve people, you serve them well. Like Tristan said, he's got a software he's just doing the free trial. Yeah, there's plenty of free stuff out there. Like I've got my laptop downstairs, which actually is a little bit faster than that desktop. I've got DaVinci Resolve for my video editing, and video editing, man, that a lot of these skills that we're using to build businesses. There's a reason some of these are 4-year degrees at colleges.
Yeah.
Think about that. Marketing, financial management, web design, video editing, music creation, all of it. But we're using all these skills. You know, you're in for a long road to build something, but the journey is absolutely worth it. Think about that. Even if you build your business, you release your product, and it doesn't do a blasted thing. You've learned all these video editing skills. You've learned how to write marketing and sales copy. If you want to go get yourself another job, go throw that on a resume. Go demonstrate the skill that you learned. It's
Mhm.
worth you taking the time to even just explore this whole online world, let alone kind of get into it, but just explore what all that is. For you to get in the headspace of waking up in the morning and going, okay, I got to go schedule those social media posts. Okay, how am I going to drive engagement? How am I going to drive sales to my course today? How do I run Facebook ads? How do I budget, my money so that I don't, so that I maximize, the results that I get from my Facebook ads? You know,
Mm.
it's it's worth you looking into some of that stuff.
I
It's
would.
not everybody's going to have this big online course. Everybody wants a piece of it. Everybody wants a piece of it. But you are pretty much like, I don't know, whoever's watching this, if you have a 4-year degree, or you got your master's or your doctorate or whatever, you know, I mean, as far as me and Tristan are concerned, we've sat at home and we have still sat in the classroom. We've sat there and we've done all the research. I've bought courses teaching me DaVinci Resolve. I've bought courses teaching me marketing and sales copy, and I bought music licensing, and all kinds of different stuff. You know, I've made my own college in my own home over the past 2, 3, 4 years. And while I'm playing gigs in Nashville, Tennessee, you know, coming home sometimes at 2:30 and 3 in the morning when my wife and my son are asleep, I'm sitting there. I've got my notes app open on my iPhone or Android, whatever you prefer. I don't care. And I'm taking notes. I'm writing. I'm distilling all of that knowledge. If you're into coding, if you're into singing like Tristan is, you know, figure out how to make it accessible for people, and then create great curriculum, you know, and make it easier for the next kid that's coming along. That's how you build a successful business, and it's a long process. You're not going to do it in 30 days. I don't care what the marketing says. You're not going to make 10 grand in 30 days. It's the likelihood of you doing that and that happening. If you do, great. That's awesome. You know, show me how to do it. But I can promise you, you know, that's not the typical result for everybody. So don't market your business that way. You're going to have a better business if people can trust you.
Yeah,
That's the goal. That's how you have brand loyalty. That's how you have a trustworthy brand. Be that guy. Don't be the boisterous guy that overpromises and underdelivers.
totally
Be
true.
the simple concepts, common sense.
Very much so.
Hmm.
This actually also applies to music as well, because
Hmm.
music is business.
Yes.
And even in the arrangement, the composition, the delivery,
Hmm.
just like you said, you can play a million chords for 3 people,
Yep.
and those 3 people will love it.
Yep.
They'll understand everything. Be like, man, this is exactly what I'm looking for. But it's
Hmm.
such a small population.
Yes.
Is that what you want? That's an option.
Yep.
You can play a million or 3 chords for a million people,
Hmm.
and you can reach so much more. And the same thing is true with business.
Hmm.
So,
And I'll add to that, Tristan. For anyone watching this, you want to know how to be a professional musician? And yeah, I'm saying a little bit of this sarcastically, but there's a little bit of truth to it. You want to know how to be a professional musician? It is not how good you play, it's how well you get along with people. It's, can people trust you? It's, are you on the gig and by the end of the night, are you hammered drunk and everybody's having to take care of you night in and night out? Are you the problem child on the gig? If you're not the problem child, it's probably a it's there's a good chance you're probably going to work. You can be absolutely incredible. Your musical skills can be absolutely unbelievable. And you can completely wreck your life and your career and the and make people miserable around you. You do that, you're not going to have a professional music career. I don't care how good you are. Same way with being a business owner. If if you want to if you want to be if you have any aspirations whatsoever of playing professionally, you know, yeah, you got to be good. You have to be good, but very much like we're talking about, like all this, business and marketing and stuff, very much like that. You have to make sure that you as a person, that that you can go out and just kind of, I mean, you can get along with people. It's not hard. That you're going to act with honesty and integrity and character. If you're in the 15 passenger van and trailer going out and doing the $200 gig with people, and people get out of the van going, oh my gosh, I will never hire that guy again. Man, that guy was such a problem. You do that, if that's you that they're not going to hire, you're going to have a very short career. I don't care how well you played the gig. I don't care how good you are as a musician. It goes back to what Tristan said at the very top of this whole thing. Ego. And if your ego is way out of control, don't even bother moving here. That's the honest truth. I've seen enough people with ego problems that have a lot of talent, and a lot of them aren't here anymore. A lot of us, as far as, like I said, it took me 3 years to get plugged in, but a lot of the reasons I'm still even in some of the situations I'm in is not because I'm the best musician in Nashville. I am far from it. The best musicians in Nashville, that is that is a big pool of people. I mean, a really big pool of people. Everybody here is good. But the reason that I'm still in some, one, I'm blessed to be where I'm at. God's blessed me immensely. I'm thankful for where I'm at. But I mean, I don't give people any trouble. When I sit there and talk to somebody, we're probably about to talk and cut up and just enjoy being around one another. That's the honest truth. Like, if there's not a lot of room for fakeness in Nashville, and I think Tristan and I are probably both saying the same thing here. We kind of hate seeing the fakeness on the internet. Like, if you're just going to make an education product, make an education product, sell it, and make sure it can do the thing that it claims to do. So, but
Yeah.
that's what people aren't telling you in all these educational products. You're not going to get a lesson or a module that says, oh, make sure you don't give anybody, any problems on the gig. make sure make sure nobody's having to cart your butt out at the end of the night. You know, just show up, shake hands with somebody, learn a little bit about them. Before Tristan and I started recording, we were sitting here just talking back and forth. That was it. That's literally it in a nutshell. You know, he goes back to common sense. He goes back to, relationships, you know, being able to just, have a healthy conversation with people. And you're going to find all kinds of people with ego and junk all over the internet, all over Nashville, wherever if you, especially in the music industry, you're going to find tons of that. But a lot of the ones that are the best at what they do, like my mentors, are huge session musicians in town, play on pretty much everything. You don't know their names. I'm telling you, you don't know their names. They fly under the radar, and they do really, really well. And they are a couple of the nicest guys that I've ever met. One of them's a steel player. One of them does the acoustic stuff on records. I've had others. One of my guys that I interned under in college, he passed away a couple years ago. He and I'm not going into just tons and tons of names. If if we ever if you ever meet me in person, yeah, I'll tell you. But there was the big A-list guys, and for all practical purposes, these guys were part of the A-list. They might not have been, you know, if it wasn't those A-list guys, it was also these dudes, and they played on tons and tons of stuff. Sweetest, most humble people you'd ever meet. When I'm interning under them, I'm absolutely nobody. And I mean, this was years ago. I mean, I was in my 20s. I was still in college at the time, but they treated me like I was part of the session. That's the type of people you want to be around if you want to be a professional musician. Those are the types of people you seek out. They're not easy to find. You go out, you shake hands with people, you know, you know. I hate all the talk about networking too. Networking is like just kind of a scummy word to me. You know,
Yeah.
you form healthy relationships, and the ones that are worth their salt, yeah, they'll give you the time of the day. And then there's others that are worth their salt, but man, sometimes sometimes it might just be a little scatterbrained, and they missed a text message or something. You know, you have to you have to give grace and mercy. You know, um, that's the stuff you're not going to find in all the educational products. That's the
Yeah.
real life stuff. That's it. You know, um, I probably need to do a little segment in my course about that. I just now thought about. Thank you, Tristan. I just now thought about that. So
Happy to hear it.
yeah.
I'm thinking about doing something like that as well,
Mm-hmm.
on kind of on two fronts,
Mm-hmm.
because I know ego is actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a massive problem, and there's so
Yep.
little answer for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then pairing that with stage fright, I know
Yes.
we talked a little bit about stage nerves and this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's so little understood.
Mm-hmm.
So part of my thing here, so I have the road to mastery,
Mm-hmm.
the 80 days,
Mm-hmm.
but my obsession really
Mm-hmm.
is finding a way to actually really address
Mm-hmm.
what stage fright is, because it's tightly wrapped with ego.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
There's no one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
So
Excuse me.
all good. Understanding that, yeah, that is something that really needs to be tapped into
Mm-hmm.
in the
Yep.
music industry.
Sure does. Sure does. The and the thing is, like what you're talking about with ego, it will hinder it will hinder your learning progression. The reason I say that too is this. Let's say you're in the middle of a gig, and you are trying to, you're trying to get better as a player. You're doing your best to expand your abilities. If you are only focused, if your mind, literally all the thoughts and stuff that's going through your head, the psychology of all of it, if your mind is focused solely on what you're doing, on what you are, on what you're putting out there for everybody. If you have this whole look at me attitude, and you may not even intentionally, be thinking that, but it can come from a place of fear as well. If you're so worried about how you look to everybody else around you, you're probably going to do one of two things. You're either going to overplay it You're going to overdo it, or you're not going to try at all. That is ego from either a place of thinking too highly of yourself or not having enough confidence in yourself. So, what do you do about that? The thing that you do is you remove yourself from the equation. You listen to everybody else around you because what they are doing is going to inform what you do. And when you blend with them, which is the entire goal to music, you have mix engineers, you have mastering engineers for a reason. They record those records and they mix them, they give them the right blend, they do volume automations, they do EQ, they do compression, all of it to blend the record together to make one complete experience. They do that for film and television. You ought to do that in a live gig situation. You're listening to everybody else and you blend yourself in with what's going on musically. The bass player might play the wrong chord. And if your ear hears it, maybe go with him. Or if you play the right chord and somebody else plays the wrong chord, or vice versa, you might be helping them to correct what they do, and they might make a quick change. A lot of times, a listener, a professional musician, if you make mistakes, yeah, sometimes the audience will hear it, but a lot of times the audience might not know that anything ever happened. Go look up Victor Wooten. He talks about all the right notes and wrong notes, and it's true. There's no real wrong notes. It's how you play them. It's the context that you place all of them in. That's why the concept of shredding makes no sense whatsoever. You're not going to shred in a verse. You're not going to shred unless your song is an instrumental. There's probably not going to be a lot of shredding going on. Go listen to film and television. Go listen to the vocal performance. There's not a lot of production that goes into some of those things. I mean, you're learning how to play music, how to be a better musician. That involves you learning how to blend in with other people. If you think about singing, like Tristan's talking about, and let's say you're the harmony singer, you might not be hitting perfect harmony because the lead singer might be maybe a few cents flat, but your ear is instinctively, going to try to move and blend in with them. That's the name of the game. It's not perfection. You're honing your instincts, you're honing your intuition. There's not that's not something that just theory explains. That's not something that academic head knowledge explains. That's something where you go through, something like Tristan's 80 days and build habits and build skills. That's why my whole program is a comprehensive, study of learning to play guitar. It's not intended to turn you into a professional musician. It's intended for, if you're 25 now, it's still intended to be there when you're 55 and 65. Because you're still going to try to learn how to create better music. That's the entire goal. That's you growing as a musician. That's you growing skills. Same way with business. Video editing. I don't know everything that DaVinci Resolve can do, but I know enough to make me dangerous. I know enough to be able to export my course videos and upload them to Kajabi. I know, and I can look on YouTube and find a couple of quick answers, hopefully, you know. um, I mean, it's very much what Tristan is saying. Ego, ego, I mean, ego can be found there's no short supply of ego. Let's put it that way. And but if you can, but you personally, whoever is watching this, you personally, as a musician, if you can go ahead and remove the ego out of it now, you will have a huge advantage that other people don't. You might even get to a situation where you're pursuing being a professional musician, and some of those musicians that have ego are playing gigs and you're not. That'll change because crap happens, and all of a sudden the egotistical guitar player or the egotistical, artist, all of a sudden they do something to screw up and their career's done. Or they get blacklisted and people don't really want to work with them because they give people problems. It goes back to that whole concept. So you developing a you developing humility instead of ego into your learning process and your career is going to serve you so much better. When you figure out that everything going on in life is not all about you, it helps your learning process, it helps your business growth, it helps your relationships in your career. It's pretty helpful. Pretty effective.
Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking as you were talking about having ego on stage
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
and the contribution, the focus of the
Mm-hmm.
contribution,
Mm-hmm.
what you're putting out
Yep.
is what's going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
I say that's true even in a solo situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh sure.
Although it may seem like there's nothing, like you have nothing to go off of, but
Mm-hmm.
you rely on the exact same thing. The same
Mm-hmm.
thing that brings success in group play brings
Mm-hmm.
success in solo play, and it's not you, it's what you
Mm-hmm.
contribute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's if you're in solo performance, I've got a video that talks about this in my course. It's a and the whole topic I kind of center it around is like playing rhythm with other people.
Mhm.
Like say that it's because like the way I operate, my mindset, um, you're thinking as a vocalist, I think as the side man because that's what I've been my whole career. But if I am if I am playing behind an artist and I'm only, or let's say it's even a writer's round or something like that, and I'm sitting there and I'm playing chords, my entire goal is not metronomic time, not perfect metronomic time. My whole goal is to support that artist. When I hear the lyrics and I hear that that artist is hitting beat one with a lyric, my entire job is to catch them. You don't want things just to drag or to start rushing or anything like that. You don't want that. But but there is nothing wrong with ebb and flow. Nothing wrong with that at all. Music breathes. That's what it does. Um, my thing is if I have played the song, if I have played the song and I've supported the artist well, and no one even really notices or remembers that I'm there, I've done my job and I've done it well. If people start to notice that I'm there, it probably means that I'm making mistakes and I'm screwing something up. My job is to be as inconspicuous as possible. So, because at the end of the night, I still get paid the same. I still get paid the same, whether people knew I was there or not. My bills still got paid that night. You know, that's part of saying that's like you're talking about, like with solo performance. You know, it's not about people. It's not about people even knowing that you're there. The contribution and what you play, even if you hit a wrong note, kind of like what Victor Wooten talks about. If you can make that wrong note part of the composition right there on the fly, you're probably a pretty good musician. You're probably a pretty good singer if you can take that little flat note and raise it up just a little bit and make it like it's part of the song. That's real professional skills. It's not it's not you shredding, it's not you belting or sounding like the hottest artist out there. It's that's real professional level ability. And that is something no amount of lessons can really teach. Um, that is something that you learn by experience. You have to learn that by experience. Now that's kind of like one of the things I talk about in you know about anything I write. Like, you'll see the same thing. There's no secrets whatsoever to music. There's no secrets. There's different levels of awareness. Like, think about it, like session musicians, the cream of the crop. I mean the upper echelon, what every musician, aspires to be. They're still playing a G chord like I'm playing a G chord. They're still playing double stops like I'm playing double stops. I'm sure Tristan, um, I'm sure he can hit, you know, certain keys in a certain octave range, just like, your big name artists can. You know, the artist, when it comes to singing, it's not even just the fact that they hit the notes. It's the songwriting. That's what the audience connected with. They connected with the song. The performance, yeah, the performance is the deliverance of the song. It's what encapsulates, everything that the song was about. It drives the emotional experience, the connectivity there. But all of the theory, the academics, and all of that behind it, that's not where the greatness comes from. That's not where all of that that's not where all of that happens. All of that happens in the creative process. It happens when you remove ego from the equation, and you sit there and you go work with a team, you work with your band, you work with the producer or the engineer to make a great part. Yes, your abilities need to be good, but if you can't play as a team, win as a team, lose as a team, if you can't do that, your career is going to be short-lived. Now we can talk about the differences in, like, artist ego and all that stuff. I think of it from, like, sidemen perspective, and I've had tons of experiences with what you're talking about, Tristan. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen a lot of that, but there's different levels of that.
Yeah,
So,
there is.
mm,
And you're right when you say that ego will stunt your learning process. It will
hmm
stunt your creative process as well.
sure will. hmm
We all go through the bell curve at least once in our lives.
hmm
Probably once every skill,
hmm
to be honest.
Yes.
And over time, you realize it's really all the same thing.
hmm
Skills, all this stuff that we develop,
Yep.
it's not about us.
That's right.
And business and music and sharing something greater
hmm
can't be about you because you're equal to everyone else.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. and they all started at some point like you did. I'm not saying they don't have some level of natural, just God-given talent. I've trust me, I've got one guy that comes to mind. Like, he does some sessions and stuff, and I mean his abilities, his physical technique. I mean, you can find examples all over YouTube, but like his physical technique rivals that. Actually, it's almost a direct. I won't even say copy, but I mean, because you can tell he's heavily influenced by this one player. But like, even as a teenager, his physical abilities to be able to move around the fretboard and just seamlessly connect ideas. I mean, it rivaled a guy that was like, 40, maybe 50 years older than him. You see, I mean, go look at the bluegrass world. You see all those child prodigies, like fiddle players and, banjo players that, I mean, like these 10, 11, 12-year-old kids that, I mean, are just unbelievable musicians, you know. And the thing is like, you maybe see their name, once, especially at that age, because like there's a novelty about it when you're that young and that good, you know.
Yeah.
But like, think about it this way, you know, fast forward 20, 25 years, you know, that 10 or 11-year old, what did he or she, become? Was music even their career? Did they let their abilities, stagnate? Are they still as good as they were back then? You know, um, all kinds of different situations. I mean, it's life. We're talking about life versus music and career aspirations. We're talking about people that have made all kinds of decisions in their life. I mean, we're talking about much deeper stuff than just education here. You know, but I mean, you're not saying you're also not saying that you can't learn to be good. If you have the same exact abilities, you know, as as the as the biggest player in the market, if you have the exact same abilities, you know, are you even necessary? And I say that to ask a very serious question. If you are a carbon clone copy of one of your heroes, do you think that you're getting the phone call to play on that record over him? That goes back to ego. If you want to be a carbon clone copy of one of your heroes, you are absolutely, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not leaning into your own creativity. You're not expanding on all the stuff that's come before you. You're just copying it. Now, the guy that I had come to mind, I'm not saying that about him. I know that guy personally. He's really, really, really good. His technique is just unbelievable. And yes, he will be one of the dudes that's that is expanding, country music. He will be one of the dudes. It's pretty safe to say. But and he has more influences than just that. Like, I mean, that guy's influenced. He's influenced by a lot of the old school, you know, players. A lot of people, a lot of the guys that played in bands in the 70s and 80s. A lot of the big country. I mean, I am too. I love listening to all that stuff. But I say that to say this: you you learn from those people. Those people are a great example of musical vocabulary in context, which you should learn, you should listen to, you should always be listening to music. But if you are trying to be a carbon copy of those people, if you desire what their life looks like and what their career looks like and how everything played out for them, if you're desiring that, you are doing yourself a major, major disservice. because you're not leaning into your own creativity, and you're also living in a delusional fantasy. And that is a huge hindrance to you learning and growing. I've been there, I've experienced it myself, because I wanted to be as good as somebody else, but I didn't conceptually understand, hey, I don't need to copy that guy's career. That guy's already had his career. I'm not going to be able to play like him. I can learn some vocabulary and I can try to adapt my technique. But like I said, I've got other mentors that are still in this business. You know, I want to learn to play a little bit like them too. I want to add some of what they've got in there. There's other guitar heroes that I've got. I want to add a little bit of that into the whole mixture. You know, and all of a sudden you have like an amalgamation of all those different influences, coupled with your own creativity, creates originality.
Mm-hmm. Originality is in the perspective,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and it's always derivative.
Correct. That is not said enough. That is not said enough, Tristan.
Mm. It's true.
Mm,
It's hard to think when you're first starting out, you're
mm,
making music or you're playing guitar and you want to be like
mm,
such and such. You
mm,
think that they have no influences on this earth
mm.
in a way.
Yep.
Because you feel like you have to amount to this thing that never existed. No one
Right.
has ever done anything without speaking the language that
Yep.
everyone's speaking. So that is very wise words.
You you said you said something that was really insightful. You said they're trying to live up to something that never existed. And you're absolutely right. That idea and that perception is there. If you want real greatness, though, if you want real deal tangible, or at least a shot at it, you respect everything that came before you. You learn from it. Take little bits and pieces from it. Um, and then make your own version of that. It's like we talked about, like with product development. I'm not the only guitar teacher on the internet. Tristan's not the only vocal coach on the internet, you know, but the way we explain stuff might resonate with you. It might, it might be something that helps you avoid some potholes and keeps you from going down a YouTube rabbit hole and wasting 4 or 5 hours. You know, I mean, seriously, we might save you some time and some serious money, you know, instead of paying, like, that's why that's why I priced my course the way I did. That's why I was saying earlier, when you're making your business, don't get greedy. Everybody wants a piece of the online business, but, like, you know, you have a global market. Do the math. Literally, do the math. My intro offer is, 97 bucks. Literally 20 years worth of guitar experience from a professional Nashville musician for less than 100 bucks. Lifetime access. I mean, but the reason versus going and paying, for half hour lessons, 25 bucks a pop over the course of a year, you know, you spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You do that over 2 or 3 years, you spent thousands. Well, you leave that 30-minute lesson, you know, what if you forget what you learned? There's no recording of it. You're just trying to sit there and memorize it, hoping to maximize that private one-on-one lesson time. You know, but in a global market, do the math. I need a few thousand sales to to do to set myself up pretty well financially. If you're building a business, you know, that's what you're looking to do. You're looking to serve some customers well. You know,
Yeah.
it's just, you know, a lot of it goes back to the ego thing and not being greedy.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, there's so much that can be said, dude, about what we're discussing right now. And I think this is a discussion that a lot more educators should be putting out there. I will say this. You know, I'm glad you brought this topic up. This was a topic that needed to be said.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Even beyond music and
Mm-hmm.
business,
Mm-hmm.
the education space, let's put it.
Mm-hmm.
There's two things that I wanted to add
Mm-hmm.
to what we've already talked about and contributed, which is we know that experience teaches the best things that no teacher can teach.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yes.
realized
Yes.
that experience teaches, not me.
Mm-hmm.
That changed everything. That
Yes.
can be tied back to music, where like if you want people to think you're a good musician,
Mm-hmm.
you don't convince them.
Mm-hmm.
They're convinced by what they experience from you.
Bingo. Bingo. And not a lot of people get that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And on top of that, when ego sells, let's be honest, right? We both bought courses.
Yeah, that's kind of something you have to just kind of readily admit. Yeah.
Yeah. And still, I want to avoid that as much as possible because,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so
I'll say this, though, about that. I think in the short term.
yes,
I think in the short term. I don't think in the long term.
ego is not committed.
Mm-hmm.
Ego wants the quick win and
Correct.
wants the one and done.
Right. Wants the one and done.
So,
It wants that quick magic fix.
yeah.
Versus hard work and commitment.
Mm-hmm. And so there's kind of a double-edged sword there where, like,
Mm-hmm.
some people would say, for instance, Ken Tamplin famously has said that he spent $1 million on his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's cool. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it would certainly be interesting to spend that much and learn from so many people.
Mm-hmm.
But for the entry-level person, is
Yes.
it all that necessary?
Mm-hmm.
You don't actually have to spend too much.
Yes.
Right. Ultimately, what it comes down to is if what you're spending
Mm-hmm.
gets you the exact instructions
Mm-hmm.
to experience the exact thing you need to know,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
then it's worth all the money in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'll even add to this, or I'll add this to that. The way that you do that, because I think you might have wrote about this morning.
Hmm.
You do that if you're the student. You do that through small, manageable steps. You don't take a fire hose full of information and expect to digest the whole thing. You have to have a small, manageable plan. Like with your thing with the 80 days. Week 1, you're just doing this. Over this 2 or 3 day period, this is what you do. It's a small step each day. It's one simple accomplishment. with my thing with guitar. If you wake up in the morning and have your coffee, have breakfast, start your day, maybe do some work if you work from home. I don't know. But by the end of the day, you've learned one chord, and you wake up the next morning and you play that one chord again because you learned it yesterday. That's you retaining the information. You accomplished something. You did the work. I mean, no one can say that you didn't. You don't need to think that you didn't do the work. You accomplished something in that field. You got the results. The results aren't just you know, they're not just, oh, I got to do that one more step. Oh, I got to do that one more thing. I got to do that one more thing. No, you reach the desired end result. You learn to play the E chord. Okay, now you wake up. The next day, you've reviewed a little bit. All right, I'm going to learn to play A. Actually, I'm going to try to learn to play two chords today. I'm going to learn to play A and B7. You do that in a couple days. Okay, now do you know how many songs have E, A, and B7 as the only chords in the entire composition? Your learning process is, I put it this way, and this is my personal belief. Learning is not additive, it's exponential. It compounds on itself. You learn one thing, and then all of a sudden, your skills and abilities that you learn from learning that one thing allow you to learn a little bit faster, even if by like a fraction of a percentage. You learn a little bit quicker, learn two chords because now you got some technique built up. Okay, well, my calluses are starting to form on my fingertips. Oh, A and B7, they're a little easier. Oh, now I can play G, C, and D. Learn three chords in one day. It's a snowball, and it sits there and rolls downhill, and it's gathering snow. And pretty soon, you're still wondering if you're on the mountain climb, and you've actually reached the top of the mountain, and you don't even realize it.
Hmm. That's beautiful. I had a feeling that your approach was like that,
Mm-hmm.
given what I've seen from you and your profile and what
Mm-hmm.
we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So that had me really excited. So happy to see that in this space.
It, it's kind of like we were saying earlier. It's for me. It is a slow build, and I've come to a place where I am perfectly okay with that because I'm a one man operation. I am I am I still play 5 nights a week. That's my main source of income, and I mean, but everything I'm saying is coming from or it's coming from experience, but it's coming from a couple places. It's coming from me wanting to build something and put great information out there. But truthfully, and this is a big side benefit to anybody that's doing all the stuff that Tristan and I are doing. You're making yourself not just a better instructor, you're honing your abilities. Like the old saying, of those that can't do teach. The maybe 30 years ago, maybe that was semi accurate, but in the day and the age that we're in, those that can do should teach because I mean, one, it helps other people, but two, it grows your ability. Like the concepts and stuff that I've learned over 10 years, when I see them physically written out on paper in my own words, they start making me think, and they start making me, conceptualize other ideas, and it starts to make me think about, you know, okay, one example, tension in the body. That's something that Tristan and I definitely can speak a lot to, because, and you're not going to hear this in all the shred courses. At least I don't think so. Yeah, I do dog all the shred courses. Yes, I do. Sorry.
Yeah.
But tension in the body, that hinders your ability to physically execute everything that's up here. The physical act of being able to play the instrument, if you are tense, if you tense up your muscles and everything, and you're trying too hard, it goes back to some of that ego stuff. If you get in that mindset, and you can do it, it can just sneak up on you. Tension can build up in some of the craziest places. But if you can learn to breathe, or you can learn to take your mind and focus it on, like maybe a specific finger, and just focus on relaxing that. That's like a gear shift in your mind. It's like literally hitting the clutch, shifting the gear, and going, okay. It's like a batter stepping into the batter's box, and they're making their approach. It's like a golfer walking up to the tee, and they're getting into like their pre-swing, kind of routine. They're getting in their headspace. If you can breathe and just take in oxygen, and let that kind of disperse to your muscles and calm your whole body down. You can think about stage presence too as well. Your movement. If you start to lock up, like if you lock your knees up, or if you just stand in one space, all of a sudden you become conscious and aware of, oh man, my feet are hurting. Well, now you're not focused on playing the song, and I can go on. That is a whole another topic of discussion. I could go on for a while about all that stuff, about distractions. I mean, you're talking about tourism downtown Nashville. You see tons of crazy junk.
Give it a second, it'll come back. Hmm. Sorry, for some reason we can't hear. Seems the audio got muted or something. There we go.
I am so sorry about that, Tristan. That's my bad,
No
buddy.
worries. No worries.
But that tension, you don't hear a lot of people talk about that either. You breathe. You take slow movements. If you can, you let your body kind of sync up a little bit to the rhythm of the music. You don't sit there and rush, but rhythm is felt. Rhythm is not just a mathematical thing. Yeah, you can subdivide beats and everything, but rhythm is a feeling. It is conveyed to the audience. It is accomplished as a team effort. Everything you do in music is accomplished as a team effort. Your execution, though, if you can learn to really mitigate tension, better yet, if you can learn to control it. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're playing on a fretboard, controlling like finger pressure and doing that instantaneously, that helps with your speed. It helps with your dexterity. I talk about that was one of the first lessons in my little newsletter thing that I've got. Don't neglect your thumb. Everybody thinks about what's going on here on the fretboard, and nobody really talks as much about this. Thumb placement is nothing to overthink. But if your thumb drags behind, let's say you've got a glossed neck, and the gloss, like your hands get all sweaty or something like that, and your thumb starts to drag along the back of the neck. All of a sudden, this right here is pulling these, you know, and you're not getting the notes as quick as you need to get to them. All of a sudden, playing gets a little bit harder. But if you treat your thumb with as much care and attention as you do these, and you make this just as much a part of the action, all of a sudden your hand starts working together. The whole picture starts to come together. And then playing becomes a little bit easier. But that's something that's not any theoretical concept. That's nothing like that. Like we said earlier, there's no secrets in music. It's just different levels of awareness. You can play with this dragging for years and not even notice it, and wonder why you can't play certain little things. It's because your darn thumb is dragging behind. It's dragging everything else down. You didn't. It's not that thought didn't occur to me. I mean, I'm a professional musician. That stuff didn't occur to me. When I was first taking lessons, it didn't occur to me until well after I started making my living. I started writing about some of that stuff, and I conceptualized it, and then all of a sudden, it occurred to me. Oh, it's not proper thumb placement, because your hands might be bigger than mine. They might be smaller than mine. Your quote unquote proper thumb placement is going to look different than mine. But if mine or your thumb drags behind, it hinders what these do.
Mm-hmm.
That's awareness. That's not a secret. That's just something you might not have thought of. Let's also put it this way. I was playing at a church this past Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Tonally, think about tone. I play country music for a living. Now, I go into a part and I go into an intro or a verse or something. And I might have maybe a smidge of reverb on my tone for a little bit of ambience, maybe a little bit of delay. I've got my distortions on and things, but I mean, it's not just swimming in reverb. But I go into church on Sunday, set up all my stuff, and you got the mix engineer that's back there. Now, the next thing I'm about to tell you, I don't necessarily recommend, because it's not necessarily the best thing for you, because you can damage your hearing doing it. But I've got my little mixing thing on the side over there. When I've got my in-ears in, I've got one ear in and one ear out, just because I want to hear the room. That's not necessarily the best thing you should do. You should always wear both of them, because that can damage your hearing. But every now and then I like to get a little, representation of what's actually going on in the room around me versus what I'm hearing in my ears.
Mm-hmm.
So, all that being said, the parts and stuff that I was playing, they were not complex at all. I was playing big chords, and I played a couple of little single note things. But my tone, I had both my distortion pedals on almost the whole time. And my tone was swimming in reverb. What that did, the sound guy back there, when he mixes the tones and the sound that's coming out of the front of house speakers, it blended my tone in with the rest of the band. I'm the only electric guitar player. We didn't even have keys that day. It was acoustic, me on electric. We had bass and drums. but everything sounded really full and really great. I had a ton of reverb on. And that was just what was, I have a Kemper amp, and that was what was on my Kemper. I dialed in a few little settings and things. But if I approached that situation tonally, like I did in my normal, regular job, my country music stuff, if I played with a drier tone, I'm the only electric guitar player in the band. The front of house guy, it doesn't matter what he does back there because I didn't start from the right spot. And I could be playing all the right chords, all the right parts, everything. Didn't matter what I would have done. It still would have sounded weird. But based on the type of music that we were playing, my tone needed to swim in reverb and ambience so that the mix felt better. Not everybody conveys it like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Tristan and I were talking about earlier. It is it's different levels of awareness conveying information, and Lord willing, saving you a little money in the long run, but you're getting, me telling you that is telling you real life experience, real world scenarios. I'm not giving you modes or anything. I'm telling you, if you wind up finding yourself playing in church on Sunday and then going and playing a country gig, your tone, your decision making, that's kind of the topic that I'm kind of writing a little bit about this week. Your decision making starts before you even play a note. It starts from you understanding that, okay, I've got to have more reverb here. I'm going to start here and have ambience because that fills up sonic space. My tone, my part can only be like, it might only be two notes. It might be a single note part. It might be just a big full on diamond or, power chord or open voice chord or whatever. But that tone, the ambience that comes out from the gear that I'm using, and I'm not saying that like you have to have some special gear or anything. We can go down that rabbit hole too if you want. But I am saying that you knowing how to make the most out of what you already have and how to use it differently in different situations, that makes a great musician. That takes that's the ego being taken out. That is somebody that has real know-how, that has real tangible skills. When you get the text message or the phone call that says, hey man, can you be here Sunday to play? Or hey, can you come fill in our guitar player? He either didn't show up or man, he had to sub out today, or you got a guitar playing buddy that has to sub out to you. They're calling you because of your know-how, because you're available and you know how to do the job. That's the know-how portion of it. That's the experience.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing is true in the voice and even
Yes.
beyond just having amplification.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my students have asked me something that I wondered myself because originally,
Mm-hmm.
when I was first in lessons and I was first really singing,
Mm-hmm.
it was all acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
I got into a classical program,
Mm-hmm.
right? The feedback that you get
Mm-hmm.
between different rooms
Mm-hmm.
and different amplifications or listening situations,
Yes.
you absolutely have to inform your technique
Mm-hmm.
based on that, or else
Yes.
you're going to be singing like to a hall
That's
and
right.
to a microphone,
Mm-hmm.
two completely different things.
Yes. Yes.
And that is something that you
Mm-hmm.
learn from experience.
Yes. That when you do that, well, let's say you're in an arena and you're singing. or even playing, you know, take both ears out for just a minute. And, and I will say this, if you find yourself in that position, do not do that during a show, but do it during sound check, when there's not a lot of people in the room.
Mhm.
But take both ears out, listen to the drummer, and play your part, and just see how long you can keep up rhythmically. You will find that is hard because the sound is reflecting off of all these different surfaces, and the representation that you're getting, of their performance, you can't completely trust it. It's hard to. Um, Tristan, you would be able to tell me this too, because I've heard people say that, like, singers, when they use in ears versus just hearing the room or things like that, it can cause pitch differences. Like, it can cause them, just the way that they're hearing things in their ears, like their actual voice through ears versus through the room, like the perception of pitch. It's
Mhm.
it's you know it's different, or at least I think you were kind of alluding to that concept earlier. It's like, you when you're hearing that, you react differently based on, like if you're in a hall, or if you're or versus full on singing into just a microphone in your bedroom or something. You're reacting differently. I think that's what you were, if I'm not mistaken. You'd be able to
Yeah.
tell me more about that though.
Yeah, 100%. The the truth is that when we sing, or when we play an instrument too, I believe this is true.
Hmm.
It's just the level of reach that you're intending.
Hmm.
It's based on something. There's always a target,
Hmm.
whether you're aware of it or not.
Yes.
And if you're used to singing in halls or playing in one situation
Hmm.
all the time,
Hmm.
something that you don't always anticipate is how different it's going to be
Hmm.
when you have in-ears, we have headphones,
Hmm.
microphone, or even just a different room.
Yes.
So I agree. What you're saying is
Hmm.
test the room, and
Yes.
also volume will affect
Hmm.
pitch perception.
Hmm.
So the in-ears and the room will be different.
I'll give you a good one to add to that, because we've had this problem. Yeah, it's probably at least a couple weeks. We've had it a handful of times. Depending on the club you're playing at, downtown Nashville, one of the circuits that I mainly work in, there's no amps. It's all direct. Everything is plugged in direct. That being said, that means that the sound guy has all the control back there. So think about that for a minute. Two things. One, we've had the entire sound system cut out, like completely lose sound, completely lose power. And it'll maybe last for maybe 2 or 3 seconds. Everybody on stage we're all still playing. Like, all the signal from my electric guitar. Yeah, it's okay for me to say this. the the drum kit in that circuit, and this is kind of a recurring theme in that whole circuit, they are electronic drums. Think about that for a minute. MIDI triggers.
Wow.
So you can imagine, if you spend any time around MIDI or around mixing or anything, you know that MIDI is more meant for the studio. It's but we make it work. It and but what's coming through our ears and things, like I said, the sound system cut out. But when everything came back on, like 2 or 3 seconds later, we're still all like this. I mean, we're still in the middle of the song. It's like nothing happened, because instinctively, we know what the heck we're doing. We're playing. We never missed a beat. And this isn't to get all cerebral and all theory or head knowledge heavy or anything, but I'm saying this to explain the concept, because this is the awareness, like you're talking about, Tristan. um like when you're talking about, hearing pitch and correcting and things like that. I mean, you're reacting that way. Your oral imagery, and what I mean is what's going on up here, like your think of it like a high definition perception of the song itself, you know and that imagery, I mean, it can come from, you've listened to the record so much that you can just, it's like hitting play on the record in your head. It's like you can hear the whole track, all the production, all the stuff. You can hear it in high definition in your mind. Or it could be you've played that song with that band so many times, and maybe you guys have changed the arrangement up a little bit, and you know it cold, you know it in and out. um or third option, you know your bandmates so well and how well they play that you're reacting based solely off of muscle memory. Like I said, sound system cuts out. You're not hearing anything anymore. I have an electric guitar. It's not acoustic. there's there's no sound coming through, but we still got power on stage. The signal is still being sent. I know what an E chord sounds like. All of that, it's so ingrained in you that you don't make any mistakes. That pitch is so ingrained in Tristan's mind that he knows, even and he can hear where the pitch is going. I can hear what an E chord sounds like in my mind, and I'm not talking about perfect pitch. In If you wanted to give any kind of terminology to it, I'm talking about relative pitch. If anything, the imagery in your mind is so well honed, your instincts are so well developed, that even when you're in an environment like that, you don't screw it up. Or at least the mistakes are minimal, you know.
Mhm.
Um, Trying to think. did I answer a question there, Tristan? I think I just gave some good information, but I'm trying to
you
think, did
you
we
were
stay on
adding.
topic there?
You were adding to it.
I was adding to it. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Mm,
That makes me think of something that we were talking about earlier about
mm-hmm,
the slow build, one chord today.
mm-hmm,
Of course, we're in the business of educating
mm-hmm,
educating musicians on their musicianship in a way that's practical.
mm-hmm,
People come to me
mm-hmm,
and pay me money
mm-hmm,
to help them find their voices.
mm-hmm,
Oftentimes, people say, I can't sing or I don't have a good voice,
mm-hmm,
right? What I find is that generally there's already something good there. Like there's always something of value.
mm-hmm,
We just build on top of that
mm-hmm,
because you can't start from nothing,
mm-hmm,
start from where you are.
mm-hmm.
Where do you see that in your own?
In
I
in
do.
my in my own playing, you're ta- you have to understand there's a small difference. There's one
Mhm.
small difference. You are talking about you are talking about natural vocal reproduction at that point, and how to you're talking about how to grow what's already there. There's some truth to that, to to playing guitar, but the thing is I'm teaching somebody to use a straight up, you know, physical instrument. I'm
Mhm.
teaching somebody to you're teaching somebody to use their natural, God-given instrument. Their ability, their vocal ability, the thing they use to speak with every day. I'm teaching somebody to take all the musical knowledge that, like, say you listen to the radio and stuff, they're representations of what's kind of going on up there, and teaching them to express that on just a physical, tangible thing. I mean, and you do all that with, you can do that with drums, you do that with, bass, or you're talking about a physical instrument there. But when you talk about what's already present, you're talking about somebody's natural inclination for creativity, and their creativity. It's like it goes back to what we were talking about all the theory. You can show people theory and concepts and things.
Mhm.
If they cannot create with it, they have no. I mean, it did them no good to absorb that knowledge. It did no good if you can't create with it. So with me, with me, I would give somebody one chord and just say, hey, you know, figure out what you can make. Figure out what you can make with that one chord. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. Put different rhythms on it. Play 6/8, play 4/4, play palm muted chunk, play big open power chords, play something like that. The thing is, and tell me what you think about this too, because my interpretation of that idea is that I believe personally, as far as musically with playing guitar, I can start a foundation for somebody. I can give them a basic foundation. Yours, kind of like you said though, they already have a tone to their voice. They already have something kind of going on there. And once you discover what that is, you can figure out how to help them best grow that. How to expand range, how to like lifting weights, like you're training the physical muscles. I'm I'm more or less starting somebody from scratch, saying, hey, this is what you're hearing when you turn on the radio. You think you're hearing all this complexity. Let me break down a few things for you. And there's your foundational thing to grow on. And before you know it, now you're capable of playing or learning that song on the radio. You know, like that, that goes back, that would go to, like, quote unquote ear training concepts and things like that. When you're thinking about ear training, it's not so much perfect harmony, it's just harmonic structure. Like if I play if I play E, A, and B7, I'm hearing I'm hearing 1, 4, and 5. The way all those chords move. Now, if I switch it to G, C, and D, the same harmonic movement still occurred, whether it was the same movement still occurs. That's you training your ear. So now from that, if you practice that for like a week, and then go turn on the radio in your car and identify the chord changes. Hear a 1, 4, and a 5. I can go turn a song on in my car, listen to it going into work, and have a rough idea what the chord changes are by the time I get to the gig. That's ear training. But the foundational part of it is that, like Tristan is saying, you're building on what's already there. What I'm talking about, remember how I said there's no secrets to music. There's only different levels of awareness. I'm making you aware at this point, it's not just the chords you play. The quote unquote ear training, or at least part of it, is the harmonic structure, those harmonic movements that occur. They were all the same in 3 different keys. They're the same in every key, that harmonic movement. Now, that's a really complex topic, but I'm saying 1, 4, and 5 is the same exact movement. If you look at a piano, you know, you got all the same exact notes. You've got, you know, from the octave, you got C to C, you got 7 notes in between there, and then the 8, note 8 is just the 1 all over again. But on a piano, it's the same thing laid out all in different octaves. It's completely symmetrical. Same concept, harmonic structure, symmetrical, all across the fretboard. And when that's ingrained in your ear and in your mind, you can go drive down the road to your gig. You can listen to a song, hear the harmonic structure, take a piece of paper, write out all the stuff, and major, minor, minor, major, dominant 7, minor, half diminished if you want to get technical about all of it, before it goes back to the 1. So we know that it's a safe bet you got a 2 minor or a 3 minor. Well, now the next level of that is to distinguish, okay, maybe I have a dominant 7 for my 3 chord instead of a minor in the major key. That's the awareness of it. But the foundation, laying that foundation comes from, okay, I've learned my E chord. Now I've learned my A, I've learned my B7, and you're building on what's already there. But in order to build on that, you have to be aware of what it actually is first, and you have to be aware of the goal that you're shooting for. You can't just shoot into the dark. You've got to know, okay, that's what I'm aiming for. It's like we talked about earlier. You still might think you're on the mountain climb, but you've actually already reached the top of the mountain and you just don't realize it. But
Very true.
that's growing. That's part of growing your abilities. And I do think, somebody knowing, like starting from nothing, like you can show them little things like that. The only thing is, as far as the student's perspective goes, you just have to wake up and do the thing. You have to sit there and listen to a bunch of music in your car. You have to practice identifying, changes like that. You can't just watch the course module video and go, oh, now I've got the knowledge. you've got to actually do the thing, sit there and listen to it, through your iPhone speakers or through your earbuds or whatever, and sit there and practice writing out a chart. You know, learn how learn how to do it that way. You got to actually. It's not the instructor. It's not the instructor that can do the building for you. The instructor can give you a blueprint. They can show you. They can show you. Okay, this is how you build the house. This is how you flip the walls up. This is how you put the roof on top. This is how you install the front doors. You know, this is how you carve out the trim. This is how you install all of that. This is how you mix the mortar. This is how you do all that stuff. But you're the one that does the labor. You're the one you're the one that actually takes the blueprint and builds the house that you see in the picture.
Absolutely. That leads me to something that you said earlier
Mm-hmm.
about kind of we were talking about somewhat business and time frames.
Sure.
People are like shred the
Mm-hmm.
shred
Oh
process,
yeah,
right?
all that stuff.
And you'll get this result in such time. And why ego is a problem,
Mm-hmm.
especially with that,
Mm-hmm.
is because you're thinking you have to do all this stuff by this time. It's like this mounting pressure,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not going to do it. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the process that really does it.
Right.
Like the steps in order, that's what's going to get the results.
Yes.
So I had an I had an image,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a student or even just learning a new skill. It's like
Mm-hmm.
in business,
Mm-hmm.
we have to meet deadlines oftentimes, and we're
Mm-hmm.
like, how are we going to do this? Well, let's take a look at the day.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at the schedule because you're talking about something that's very rarely spoken
Mm-hmm.
in the education field is bookending.
Mm-hmm.
You end your day, you start your day with something that you're going to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You play the chord,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't really realize it, but you're making massive progress.
Yes.
It seems small.
Mm-hmm.
It really is exponential.
That one action.
It's
Yeah.
everything.
That one action. That is the difference in you absorbing knowledge from a video and you actually retaining it. Because you did it for it took you 15 or 20 minutes to actually learn it when you watched the video, and then maybe 10 15 minutes later that night you got a little bit bored before you decided to turn in for the night, and you just decided to go strum the chord one more time because you just thought about it and you cared enough to go do it. That's it. You cared enough about it to just say, okay, I'm gonna go strum it. I remember how to do it. Ring, play it for 5 10 minutes, and then you woke up the next morning and you still remembered how to do the thing. 2 or 3 days later, you reviewed it for maybe all of 30 seconds and you still remembered how to do the thing. Then 2 3 weeks later, all the calluses are built up on your fingertips. Now playing's not as hard anymore. Now you're not now those high B and high E strings, they don't feel as sharp underneath your fingers. You quite literally have skin in the game. So
And putting it in
that's retention in a nutshell.
that it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's it really can be that simple. And putting it in terms of how little time it can take.
Mm-hmm.
Really, if you sit down 30 seconds, you just reviewed that.
Mm-hmm.
You just reinforced the knowledge that you have.
Yes.
The callus. And then it's like people have big aspirations, want to do big things in their life. They
Mm-hmm.
get overwhelmed.
Yep.
Let's just look at the day. Let's put a little 5-minute snippet
Mm-hmm.
right here.
Yep.
12 p.m. You got a break.
Yep.
Go do just 2 exercises,
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
You realize if you look back, like compare that to when you were overwhelmed and
Mm-hmm.
doing nothing.
Yep. If
It's
I did,
infinitely more.
if I decided to do 10 push-ups right now, and I decided to do it tomorrow and the next day, pretty soon I would have a habit built up, and I'd be in better shape than what I am. Same concept.
Success is a habit.
Mm-hmm. It's a habit, and it is not something. It is not something that is going to occur overnight or this week. Your the little successes, and that's exactly what one of my mentors told me. He said little successes add up to big success, and he was right because um, like for instance, and this is me holding myself accountable and holding my own feet to the fire. One thing I'm going for, like a goal in 2024. I've had the goal for a while, but I'm aiming to start doing a lot more session work. A lot more session work. I mostly make a lot. I make my living playing live. That's what I do a lot of. I've got my system here that I can record at home and things like that. But part of the game, part of the name of the game is all the posting on social media stuff. I hate it. It's part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty old school in the way I operate certain things, but part of the name of the game. But the thing is that social media thing, it very much like you were talking about earlier. I've seen a whole lot of the ego stuff, and the ego stuff, it bothers me like you would not believe. But there are a couple guys that kind of did convince me, well, you can do that stuff and still be tasteful. And they're right. It's and the thing is, the little social media posts and things like that, they have replaced it has replaced the old school business card, in my opinion. That's pretty much what that is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all in how you kind of present yourself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if people perceive you as somebody that has all this ego and stuff, yeah, you're probably going to have a hard time. But, you know, if you can kind of get that out of it and, and show real quality and demonstrate competence, in session work and things, yeah, maybe you start getting some calls that you might not have gotten otherwise. So
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the things I'm having to kind of adapt to myself. I got no problem doing it to grow my online business or write and do things. Those are just little habits. But when it comes to all the personal social media things and and how I go about that, I've kind of been before all this business stuff. I I I hated all the social media crap. I really did. I still do in a lot of ways, but I'm having to figure out how to use it properly and the way it's intended because it is the quote unquote business card, and I have slacked on handing out the business card. You know what I mean? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the hustle dude. I'm the build slow and build quality type guy.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was first starting, I mean, I was fearless because I had to be. You go out, you go to a show somewhere, you shake hands with somebody, you walk up, and, meet somebody that you never had met before, you know, and I've lost a little bit of that skill, or that's let's put it this way, that skill has dulled a little bit as I've gotten older, just because I've gotten set in my ways. I go work my normal schedule. I come home. I sleep in my own bed. I gotten a little comfortable. I'm having to push myself out of my comfort zone if I want to go into this, the next stage of my career that I want to pursue. Like I said, my mentors are session guys. So my whole dream and goal has always been to be a session guy, like sitting in the seat, creating music and stuff like that. Most of my living, all the learning I've gotten has been from live application and playing. Don't get me wrong. I've studied the session world too. But if I want to actually start getting the calls, I have to learn how to approach that business side of it the way that it's, approached as well. Had a couple buddies of mine that they did it correctly, and you know, they're playing sessions now. It's like, all right, fine. old curmudgeon Steven has to learn to to catch up a little bit. So
I feel you there.
mm-hmm.
Before coming into business, truly coming into business, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really start until September this
Mm-hmm.
past year.
Sure.
I didn't post on social media. In fact, I deleted most of mine. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
cut it out because, frankly, it wasn't making me happy.
Right.
And so coming into business and stuff like that,
Yes.
there's a lot of culture shock, and there's a need to find a balance
Mm-hmm.
and a way that actually isn't toxic for you.
Bingo.
And ego was a huge part of that. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a lot of listening
Yep.
to what people told me.
Mm-hmm.
Do this, but it didn't speak to who I was.
Yes. I hate the
And
whole comparison game. The comparison game is annoying.
It's awful.
Yep.
It's interesting because that's what a lot of marketing is based off of.
Right.
Compare.
Right.
And yeah, I'll tell you something that seems necessary
Mm-hmm.
is to remove the I from the equation.
Yes.
Just like in music.
Yes.
Also in the marketing. Like,
mm-hmm. You have to figure out how to demonstrate competence without the ego.
mm-hmm.
And actually, man, that hadn't completely occurred to me until, oh man. All right. So I'll say this, because I had this conversation with somebody one time.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking a little bit about that. And he told me, he said, generally, he said the most talented ones, the ones who are higher up there, they don't have all that. What I was saying earlier about it being the business card, if you can figure out how to demonstrate competence without ego, you are pretty much signaling to everybody, hey, you know, I get it. I know the game, and I'd like to join the club too. You're pretty much submitting your resume and your application for candidacy. You're not saying, oh, hey, look at me, look at my office of the day. Look how, I'm so happy. Hashtag blessed to be here. I'm, you're not saying all that. If you can figure out how to really demonstrate competence and, and, and whoever's on the other end of your post, if they can look at that post and go, man, I got to meet that guy. That guy sounds pretty cool. They're not comparing their life to yours. They're saying, I could be friends with that dude. That's how you build wealth. Because now you're saying, hey, I know to remove myself out of the equation. But yeah, I want to try out to be on the pro team. It hadn't occurred to me like that until you said that just a minute ago. I had not thought about it that way. But all of a sudden, just two or three dots connected all at once when you said that.
Yeah, it was a recent realization too.
Mm,
I've had some business coaching from a guy who's actually he's not like particularly a big name,
right.
but his coaching has been just straight to the point.
Hmm.
And one thing that he taught me
Hmm.
about social media and
Hmm.
actually what SEO really is,
Hmm.
in a way, I realized that I'm not interacting with people, I'm interacting with the search engine.
Right.
So I'm teaching it almost like those postal tubes where, or at the bank where you put in the stuff and it sends and just that's kind of like it's going to get to the right place as long as I write the right name on it.
Hmm. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's something you and I should probably talk about because I would love. I haven't done a deep dive into SEO like that. I've kind of put that on the back burner. But what you're saying makes total sense from everything I've seen. That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah, when I did that,
Mm-hmm.
everything legitimately changed.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Followers started happening. I didn't fish for them, they just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Engagement started happening.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, actually people were booking.
Mm-hmm. People were,
People
yeah, you were actually seeing results. Like people were actually like they were getting on your schedule.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just one change and I actually stopped posting as much. I was just
it was
interacting with
that
the content.
it was that much of a tweak. Huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Golly, man. That's
Yeah.
nuts. That is
Yeah.
nuts. Mm.
Makes a huge difference. So yeah, I'd be happy to share about that.
Mm.
And I know we've talked a lot about music and business and
Mm.
all this sort of thing. You've got a lot of things in the works right now.
Mm.
What would be the one thing you would want people to know about?
What? Wait, about what now? Say it one more time.
So if there's anything that of the projects that you have
Mm-hmm.
in the works right now,
Yes.
what's the one thing you want people to know about?
To know about them, whenever whenever you see a product from my business, it is going to be as well thought out, as well organized as it possibly can be. I'm going to give 110% of just effort and knowledge I can into building that, especially as a one man operation. But when you do interact with my brand, you are going to see authenticity. You probably won't see perfection, but you will see authenticity, and you will not see like one of the things I'm doing kind of with my intro offer right now. Um, and it's going away after the intro offer. Because like I said, I don't want to get myself in over my head and stuff. I may try to figure out another way to kind of help have some interaction with people. But this is just as I'm growing. But like the people who get in with the intro offer, there's a whole like private community. I want those intro people to be able to ask me questions, have access to me. I want to be able to respond to people. Um, a lot like you and I've kind of been doing on the LinkedIn thing, like just the interaction back and forth, but just a little bit away from the social media where it's like one confined like group. It's like that's your early adopters, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I want people to be able to go, okay, I saw this on the internet, but I want to ask Stephen, what was his take on it? And I might tell him, yeah, don't put any stock into that whatsoever. I mean, they've got a professional Nashville musician with tons of experience that they can go ask like that. You can send a message, at midnight or 1 a.m. or wherever you're at in the world, and you can go, hey, what's your take on this? You know, I want them to be able to feel like, the person that they're interacting, actually does care about their experience. You know, I don't ever want to, I don't ever want to, overpromise and underdeliver. I want to build trustworthiness and good connection with people. That's That's how I want to be as a business owner. It's how I want to be as an instructor. Um, I care about who's on the other end of the thing. Um, I love what a lot of our technology and stuff, like the abilities that it affords us. Um, but I want to see it be used correctly. And if you see a product of mine, just know that it has been built with extreme care. It has been as well thought out as it possibly can be. It's probably still going to be built upon and iterated upon, and it will be affordable. it is. It is not. It is not. I am not somebody that's going to sit there and try to take your pocketbook for a ride. I I care about making money. I care about supporting my family. Don't get me wrong. That's part of being a business. If you don't make money and you're not profitable, you're not a business.
Mhm.
But that being said, with the market that we have available to us, a global market, I mean, almost anybody, as long as they're willing to do some real serious skill development, you have the opportunity to be able to build something from home that is pretty long term. Your success, at least I believe, like like you were talking about earlier, Tristan, the ego, yeah, it's profitable, but for the short term, you know, I will ask this of anybody watching: don't let your bad experience with somebody else dictate your your thought process about me or Tristan. we're we're legitimately just trying to build to build respectable businesses. We aren't trying to take advantage of anybody. We're trying to actually build something that's worth your time and energy. So,
Mhm.
and and be respectful about about your current life situation too. So I th-
Absolutely.
I think that sums up a lot of it. So
Yeah, that is good. I was I was just thinking like ego. You're right. It's for the short term. It's not committed.
mhm.
It's kind of like getting married for the street cred versus
Yes, yes,
getting married for the commitment.
yeah,
Are you really committed to this?
right,
That's what I am. I mean,
yeah,
I sacrificed so much last year and
mm-hmm.
still do
Mm-hmm.
for this business, and it's not stopping, not going away.
Right,
So, people who are committed,
mm-hmm.
that's what we want.
Yes, that's exactly right. Like you don't, you know, if you don't feel comfortable buying my product right now or whatever, now I will say there is there is serious advantage in being an early adopter, but if you don't feel comfortable with that, like right now, I still post all the time on LinkedIn. You know, literally leave a comment. I will comment back. I'm not going to just sit there and completely ghost somebody. If I've got
Hmm.
something valuable to say to whatever you commented, I'll say something. You know,
Yeah.
I would like to feel that, social media can in certain ways still be treated, like face-to-face interactions. It allows me to communicate with somebody in a whole different country, but, I would like to at least maintain some element of personal interaction as opposed to somebody because it's all text based. I would rather, you know, I'll say this because I think you commented on this post too. Um, and for whatever reason, this dude, um, he put something out there, and I don't know if this has happened to any of your posts or not, but this guy put a comment and um, he said that there were a bunch of other comments and responses. I guess some people got offended by what he said. I don't know. But like the only comment I saw from him was like this continuation of whatever he put out beforehand. Everything else, and I've had this happen with one other guy as well, it was all gone, taken away from my comment section of the post. I don't think the guy did anything wrong. I sat there and read what he said. I even read the article that he sent a link to, and it was about punctuation between generations and stuff. You know, I'm assuming you and I are, because I'm a millennial, but it was
Mhm.
talking about like Gen Z and punctuation and stuff like that. And it was like, you know, apparently whatever he said, offended some people. And he said, I've been on LinkedIn for forever. And he said, I've never had that happen. Had it happen with one other guy. And the guy, he said, he said, is it intentional that the graphics are misspelled or whatever? And I thought it was funny because he was right. And I commented back to him and I told him, I said, man, the software I use has a feature where I can auto generate an image, like an AI image or whatever.
Mhm.
The AI image, the AI, which is supposed to be so smart these days, misspells all the words and everything.
Mhm.
And have no idea why. And I have no way to edit it.
Yep.
No way. I just posted it just because I thought the graphic looked good. But it was, you know, my thing is that, I don't, I say all that to say this: whatever you say in that comment section, I don't default to taking it personally. If you're critical about something I say, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I will gladly look at what you say and weigh it against what I typed out. Just interact with me. Just type something in the thing. Now, don't be the whole, you know, big man behind a keyboard, type thing. Don't get all, don't be like that. Don't be rude intentionally. There's no reason for that. But there's nothing wrong with sharing ideas and having healthy debate. You know, I mean, literally, like Tristan, the reason I agreed to this podcast interview was because you sent me a personal video. It was 8 seconds long, and you said, "Hey, Stephen, have you ever been on a podcast?" That was the entire bit of the video, and I went, okay, this dude seems legit. This dude seems all right. He seems cool. For whatever reason, I was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. I have
That's
one
awesome.
other guy. I've had one other guy ask about like, a podcast thing or whatever. But man, I'm here to tell you the way he approached me. I mean, it was weird, dude. I mean, really strange. I'm not saying he was trying to be that way or whatever, but something felt off.
Hmm.
As far as all of our communication and stuff is concerned, the way that we all interact together on those social platforms, if you can just literally, just go, you know, okay, this dude seems like, you know, a normal dude. If you can just default to, you know, innocent before proven guilty, if you can just default to that, you know, you know, guys like Tristan and I, we're happy to interact with you, you know. And then later on, if you want to purchase something, great. If not, no harm, no foul. We're still going to talk to you. It's
Mhm.
okay. Perfectly okay.
Yeah.
That's business for you.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
The way, well, something I thought recently was that the desired result is the same.
Mm-hmm.
We both want the same for people who need it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to find your voice, or if you want to learn truly how to play guitar,
Mm-hmm.
we both want you to do that. The difference money makes is how fast you're going to get it.
Sure. Yeah.
But
It's
interacting with our content, you'll
The
still get it.
That's right. That's exactly right. The money, the money aspect, you're paying for good organization. You're paying for all of it to be right there in one place. You can go learn all the stuff on YouTube. You can go probably learn and find all the techniques and stuff that we're talking about on YouTube. But the thing is, excuse me, I'm sorry. The thing about it is, all of that information, there's so much of it out there. You sifting through all that, going through all of that process, that is not, I mean, it's gonna be a lot harder for you. Like I said, the only reason we packaged it up as a product is because we're starting a business, but at the same time, we we're able to organize the material, the things that you need, at least as far as the way, you know, like we are, the way I think you probably are as well, Tristan, as instructors, we're trying to give you the straightforward path from point A to point B. Like we're trying to simplify the process for you. That way you don't have to that way you don't have to, you know, watch somebody's video online that's 20 minutes long, and the only reason that they made that video 20 minutes long is because of like viewer metrics, click through rates, all that stuff. And you know, and by the end of the video, the only thing they've shown you how to do is that. And it takes 20 minutes of your time to sit there and watch. That's a waste of your time. My video on there on my website is like 30 seconds long. Just pause tape, look at the diagram, watch me play it, listen to how the sound goes, and move on with your day. That's it. It's a straightforward path. You know, it's
Uh,
and and the only reason for the exchange of money, I mean, you know, we got families we're trying to support. It's business. That's all it is. But we're not getting greedy or anything. We're just placing value on something that we worked hard on. Took a lot of work and effort to do what we're doing. You know, so pay us something for it. We earned it, didn't we, Tristan? Pay the man.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and so so too. Like it's our dream to see this happen.
Mhm,
It's the viewer's dream to see their dream come true,
mhm. Sure.
right? So commit to yourself.
Hmm. The other side of that too, I will also say this. The other side of that is if you start getting into this whole mindset of you think just because you take our course or you do something that it's going to make you some professional, something you'll also get from you'll the one thing you'll get from the interactions with us, even on social media and stuff, even on social media, we've been through all of that. We've thought through all of that living the dream process. We know what it actually looks like. I mean, literally, my mortgage comes in, all my bills come in. I pay my bills from playing gigs. Done it for over a decade. I've been through all of that. It's not so much living the dream. It's hey, yeah, I've got to do these social media posts now, or I've got to figure out how to present myself better, so that maybe I can get in on some sessions and stuff. So that Lord willing, I'm not 50 and 60 years old coming in at 2:30 in the morning from the downtown tourist trap. While my wife and my son are asleep. You know,
Hmm.
when you think about living the dream and you have this aspirational identity that that you're going after. Real life versus what's happening up here in your head are two different things. Because I'm telling you, when my mortgage gets taken out around the first of the month, mine gets taken out just like yours does. And you may be working a job you hate, you know, but make no mistake, I've got all the frustrations and junk that I do. I mean, Nashville's getting to be a lot more dangerous. I walk sidewalks downtown Nashville. I go into the parking garage by myself or with a buddy or two at the end of the night. We've had scares. You hear about people getting mugged in the darn parking garage. Nashville's getting to be a little more dangerous. Do you truly think I'm just living the dream as this professional musician? I'm making my living. Like my mentor Joel told me, music is not my life. Music supports my life. I can make my living doing it. I can make, and you might even be able to make some money in your hometown doing it versus having to move to any of the big music hubs. But make no mistake, you know, I mean, your aspirational identity is not going to necessarily match up with day to day real life. There's still real responsibilities that are expected of you. I mean, you're trying to get to a place where music supports your life. It's not you having your name all in lights and you being the big center of attention. It's you're trying to get to a place where you like to make your living playing music, and it seems really cool and it's great. Don't get me wrong, but it looks like a job too. I mean, when people tell us to go get a real job, yeah, we'll laugh it off and stuff. But make no mistake, the thing that they're not seeing is all the stuff that goes into it. That is the real job. if you're on tour, if you're on tour, playing the songs that you learned for 90 minutes, that's the easy part. It's the other 23 hours in the bus, driving, coming back from California all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, you know, with 5, 6 sweaty, stinky dudes, that just woke up and all have morning breath, you know. I mean, that's real life. It's, you know, we're teaching you a skill and trying to help you get better at something. But do not think for any instance that we're trying to tell you, hey, you can have this dream life. We're trying to navigate our own lives as well. That's part of this. That's something that all the marketing stuff, they're not going to tell you. I've got all my problems and issues just like you do. that's, that's why I'm saying I ain't getting greedy, but I'm going to slap a price on a product that I work hard to create. That's the business side of it. But yeah, you can learn all this stuff for free. Of course you can. Are you gonna get the interpretation of all that? Is that going to make sense to you like it does to me? What is it possible that me or Tristan could give you, a perspective that kind of helps things click a little bit? Yeah, it is. That's worth a little money. Absolutely, that's worth a little money. But you're not going to find us sitting here making you a bunch of false promises. That's not right. That's not the way you treat people. You know.
Totally agree. I appreciate you sharing your perspective on
Hmm.
the dream life.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Dude, I've got plenty of stories for days. Oh man, if you want me to just absolutely destroy the dream life right now, you and I can book another podcast, and I'll be happy to go on a big old rant about that.
Well, I just might take you up on that. I think that'd be an interesting conversation.
That I think that would turn into something pretty funny, going back and forth like that.
That'd be some pretty good topic.
Mhm.
Some good content too. But Steven, I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Absolutely,
The
man.
insight that you've shared is invaluable to everyone listening, including myself. This has been very eye-opening.
Happy to do it, man. Seriously, seriously. Thank you for reaching out to me, and thank you for doing this. This was a lot of fun. I had a great time, man.
I'm happy to do it. I think maybe consider opening up one yourself. It's just so much fun to do.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll have to chat about that because
We'll chat.
you seem like you got more tech knowledge than I do. I'll have to pick your
I've
brain
got a
a
little
little bit about
experience.
that. Mhm.
Yeah, we can definitely help each other out with that.
Mhm. Good deal.
But Steven, thank you so much. And
Mhm.
you watching this, thank you so much as well.
Mhm.
We'll see you soon.
Be
Take
safe,
care.
buddy. Take care. Bye.
Alrighty, bye bye.